Chapter 1352. There were 5 levels of the God Path: Empty God Realm, Focus God Realm, Human God Realm, Earth God Realm, and Sky God Realm. The advancement of each realm was a qualitative transformation. If an Earth God wanted to break through to Sky God Realm, the first step was to transform the Earth God Realm into a Sky God Realm. This was both difficult and simple at the same time. Some Earth God Realm martial artists could transform their Earth God Realm into a Sky God Realm in less than a year. However, for some Earth God cultivators, not to mention 1 year, even if they spent 10 years or 100 years, they might not be able to transform their Earth God Realm into a Heavenly God Realm. That was the difference between people. Like now, an ordinary person wouldn't have been able to go from Earth God Realm to Sky God Realm in a few hours, even if they had the help of 10 blood Kirins. They wouldn't have been able to transform their Earth God Realm into a Sky God Realm. But Longao had done it. In less than 6 hours, Longao had completely transformed the Earth God's divine realm and his body into Heavenly God's divine realm. This in itself already showed how powerful Longao's innate talent and cultivation speed were. Thank you, elders. Longao was pleasantly surprised. He hadn't expected to make the right bet. For Longao, breaking through from Earth God Realm to Heavenly God Realm was simply too important. 1 step. Only 1 step. Longao was very clear in his heart that his cultivation had already successfully broken through to the Heavenly Deity Realm. He was only a step away from the Supreme Divine Tao. The Supreme Tao Realm and the Supreme Tao Realm were 2 completely different realms. The eldest blood Kirin nodded and smiled. Longao, thank you so much for your help. If it weren't for you, we would have been taken away by our enemies. No matter how much the 10 blood Kirins hated humans, the young man in front of them had saved them. So, the 10 blood Kirins were sincerely grateful to Longao. Longao could feel that. Actually, Longao hadn't risked his life to save the 10 blood Kirins because he was a good person. As the saying goes, every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. Longao didn't think he was a saint, so he had saved the 10 blood Kirins for himself. If it was outside, whether or not Longao would still do this was truly an unknown. However, in the primordial battlefield, Longao resolutely made a move. The reason was simple. Longao had risked his life to save the 10 blood Kirins because he wanted the 10 blood Kirins to help him. After all, the ancient battleground was a dangerous place. Although Mr. God predicted that the ancient battleground would be the weakest it had ever been, it was still a dangerous place. If it were that easy, so many people would not have died in the primordial battlefield. Though, in the end, Longao had made the right bet. Seniors, truth be told, the reason why I risked my life to save you all earlier was not because I was kind-hearted or because of some other reason. My true goal was to have the 10 seniors help me. To tell the truth, Longao did not beat around the bush. From Longao's point of view, it was better to be direct than to be secretive. Of course. When they heard Longao's honesty, the 10 blood Kirins were not angry. They were shocked. They looked at each other. The 10 blood Kirins could see the shock in each other's eyes. The blood Kirin leader nodded approvingly. He smiled and said, Longao, we like your honesty. Since you saved us, you can make a request. As long as it is not too much, we will do our best to satisfy you. Hansen was very happy. This was what Longao wanted. In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. Senior, I entered the ancient battlefield this time for the opportunity in the ancient Forbidden Land. To be honest, I don't dare to enter the ancient Forbidden Land alone. If he had the help of the 10 blood Kirins, Longao wanted to minimize the risk. He didn't seem surprised. The 10 blood Kirins guessed that Longao would do this. After all, a human had entered the ancient battleground for the ancient battleground's opportunities. The opportunities in other parts of the ancient battleground were difficult to obtain. They were not as good as the ancient battlegrounds. The 10 blood Kirins did not immediately agree. They looked a bit serious. The blood Kirin leader hesitated, and then he said, Longao, the ancient battleground is very dangerous. It's not just you. Even we, and our father's killer, do not dare enter the ancient battleground. Do you know why? I do not know. Please tell me. Longao was very curious. He did not know what was in the ancient battleground, but he knew for sure that the dangers of the ancient battleground were not something ordinary people could survive. After all, the 10 blood Kirins were afraid of it. But Longao did not back down. Things had already come to this point. Was he going to avoid going to the ancient battleground? Aside from agreeing to Tong Zun's request, Longao also wanted to go to the ancient battleground. After all, Master Clairvoyant had come to make a prediction himself. He knew what the ancient battleground was like. Longao was curious. Had Master Clairvoyant been to the ancient battleground? Otherwise, how could Master Clairvoyant have known about the ancient battleground's forbidden lands? Longao had an intuition that the clairvoyant master did not rely on the Tao of divination to predict the location of the ancient forbidden land. Instead, he had entered the ancient battlefield. However, unless the clairvoyant master said it himself, no one would know. Everyone on the martial heaven continent trusted Master Clairvoyant. Even if Master Clairvoyant said that a deer was a horse, there would probably be people who would believe him. Longao, the primordial battlefield, was a place where countless experts fought during the ancient times. There are many remnant souls here. As for us, we followed our master to fight and were sealed here, unable to leave. If I'm not mistaken, the primordial forbidden land that you mentioned just now should be the place where the primordial battlefield is sealed. Hence, as long as someone goes near the forbidden land, he will be attacked by the forbidden land, which is also the attack of the seal. So that's what it was. This directly told Longao that the blood Kirin was telling the truth. If that was the case, then Master Clairvoyant's prediction that the ancient battleground was at its weakest meant that the ancient battleground's seal was also at its weakest. At that time, if everyone rushed to the ancient battleground, wouldn't the martial heaven continent suffer a calamity if they broke the seal and the countless remnant souls of the ancient battleground left? Let alone the remnant souls, just the powerful divine beasts of the primordial battlefield were something that Longao was very clear about. Once they entered the martial heaven continent, the impact would be immense. What was the God Diviner trying to do? Was Master Clairvoyant doing this on purpose? Longao really didn't understand Master Clairvoyant. It was as if everyone was a chess piece, including the heavenly Daos. Only the heavenly Daos were the ones controlling the chessboard. Chapter 1353. Longao, if you want to go to the ancient forbidden lands, we can help you. When he heard this, Longao was overjoyed. He knew that the ancient forbidden lands were dangerous, but Longao was still determined to go. Longao believed in one thing. Opportunities and dangers coexisted. Without danger, how could there be opportunities? Longao, we will not enter the ancient forbidden lands. With regards to this, Longao was not surprised at all. The ancient forbidden lands were dangerous. The 10 blood Kirins would not risk their lives for him. Elder, my request is simple. I just want you to send me to the ancient forbidden lands. No problem. Since things had come to this point, Longao did not insist. As for Yi Fei, the ancient battlefield was vast. Trying to find a single person was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Longao did not want to waste time on Yi Fei. Longao was very confident. After what had happened, he believed that Yi Fei would not provoke him again, even if he was given 10,000 guts. Longbo and Yi Fei were both dead and injured. Longao sighed in relief. The Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family were going to the ancient battlefield. Yi Fei and Longbo were the leaders. He did as he thought. Longao immediately followed the 10 blood Kirins to the ancient forbidden lands. According to Longao's estimations, under normal circumstances, it would not be easy for him to reach the primordial battlefield smoothly. Because of this, Longao had risked his life to save the 10 blood Kirins. He wanted to use the blood Kirin's power to reach the ancient forbidden lands. Just like that, Longao and the 10 blood Kirins rushed to the ancient forbidden lands as fast as they could. Along the way, the 10 blood Kirins kept helping Longao. They hoped to increase their cultivation along the way. Longao took advantage of this period of time to stabilize the celestial god realm that he had just broken through. Unfortunately, for 3 whole days, Longao's cultivation did not continue to break through, but only completely stabilized. Even so, Longao was very satisfied. According to Longao's previous estimation, it would take him at least half a year to break through from the Earth God stage to the Sky God stage. But now, to break through from the Earth God stage to the Heavenly God stage in just 2 months, what kind of concept was this? Longao was not greedy. Longao was also self-aware. Now that he had broken through to the Heavenly God realm, he was only 1 step away from reaching the Supreme Divine realm. Longao, this is as far as we can go. 100 meters ahead is the ancient Forbidden Grounds. You have to be careful. If we have the chance to get out in the future, we will thank you very much. Thank you, Senior. Longao did not hesitate in the slightest as he immediately turned around and left. The main purpose of entering the ancient battlefield this time was to enter the ancient Forbidden Grounds. Now that he had finally arrived, how could Longao give up so easily? Primordial Battlefield. Inside the ancient Forbidden Grounds. The ancient Forbidden Land was a barren land. It was surrounded by rocks and weeds. Small black tornadoes constantly swept through the barren land around it. It looked extremely strange. Barren and cold. As soon as Longao stepped into the ancient Forbidden Grounds, he felt a chilly wind blowing past. Even he could not help but shudder. Tongzun? Long Tian? As soon as he stepped in, Longao saw 2 figures shuttling around the ancient Forbidden Grounds. Longao's heart was in turmoil. How did Tongzun and Long Tian come in? Everyone knew that Nirvana Realm martial artists were not allowed to enter the ancient battlefield according to the restrictions. Otherwise, why had not a single Nirvana Realm martial artist entered the ancient battlefield after so many years? How did Tongzun and Long Tian do it? After thinking about it, Longao could not figure out the reason. His face was solemn. Longao was not afraid of Yifei and Long Bo at all. Only Tongzun and Long Tian were not only in the Nirvana Realm, but their strength was also above the Nirvana Realm. They were only 1 step away from reaching the peak of the martial way. Longao hid his body. Under such circumstances, Longao certainly would not choose to fight them head-on because his main purpose was to enter the ancient battlefield and obtain his own opportunity. The ancient Forbidden Grounds was desolate. Everywhere was desolate. At a glance, it gave off a hellish feeling. Tongzun and Long Tian looked around coldly. Their faces were extremely gloomy, and they were as ugly as they could be. The 2 of them successfully suppressed their strength and successfully entered the ancient battlefield. In the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed since the 2 of them stepped into the ancient Forbidden Land. But what was the result? No matter how hard they searched, they could not find the entrance to the ancient Forbidden Grounds. Were they going to wait forever? Brother Long, what should we do now? Tongzun was very depressed because he had always believed in Long Tian. After all, Long Tian had been preparing for 10,000 years. In the end, he never expected that Long Tian would only be able to bring him into the primordial battlefield. If he couldn't enter the primordial Forbidden Grounds, wouldn't he have come for nothing? Both of their cultivations had successfully reached the peak of the Nirvana Realm, and other opportunities were no longer important to them. In fact, the thing that both of them wanted the most after entering the primordial battlefield this time was none other than the origin source energy. Once the 2 of them found the origin energy and merged it, they would break through to the peak of the martial way. Although the Nirvana Realm and the peak of the martial way were only 1 realm apart, the difference between the 2 was like heaven and earth. They were not on the same level at all. It could be said that the peak of the martial way, such as the divine mathematician and the heavenly Tao, could be said to be the rulers of the sky martial continent. All the Nirvana Realm martial artists in the sky martial continent combined were not a match for the divine mathematician and the heavenly Tao. It could be imagined how big the difference was between the Nirvana Realm and the peak of the martial way. I have researched for 10,000 years, but I am still not confident. If you give me another 100 years, I am confident that I can find the entrance. This is also the reason why I am not willing to enter despite the divine mathematician's prediction. Anything can happen in 100 years. Since we have already entered, let's take a risk. Once we break through, the Sky Martial continent will be ours. Hearing Tong Zun's words, Long Tian nodded in agreement. He suddenly smiled and said, Brother Tong is right. The heavenly Tao wants to change the situation of the continent. 100 years can change a lot of things. If we are killed by the heavenly Tao, even if I can research it, what can I do? I might as well take a risk. Since we have already entered the ancient forbidden grounds, I believe that we can definitely find the entrance. P.S. Everyone, please don't scold me. I have something to do today. Today's eruption will be moved to tomorrow. Tonight, Little Nine will stay up late and try to get more information tomorrow. I hope everyone can forgive me. Chapter 1354. The Nirvana realm was always the Nirvana realm. It was never the pinnacle of martial arts. The threat of the way of heaven was always there. Both Long Tian and Tong Zun were afraid of the way of heaven. They were afraid of it because they did not know when the way of heaven would attack them. If the way of heaven attacked, the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family would not stand a chance. They would all disappear from the Tianwu continent. That was why Long Tian and Tong Zun did not want to be passive. They entered the primordial battlefield. They wanted to see if they could find the origin energy and combine it to break through to the pinnacle of martial arts. In the distance, although Longao's cultivation was only at the celestial deity realm, he was able to hear the conversation between the two. He was shocked. Longao could sense that Tong Zun and Long Tian were not at the pinnacle of the Nirvana realm. They were only at the pinnacle of the Emperor God realm. Although they were stronger than Yi Fei and Long Bo, they were still at the pinnacle of the Emperor God realm. What was going on? Were they suppressing their powers? Other than this reason, Longao really could not think of a second reason. Longao smiled and shrugged his shoulders. He knew what it meant for them to suppress their powers and entered the primordial battlefield. The primordial battlefield was full of danger. There were Nirvana realm remnant souls and Nirvana realm divine beasts everywhere. If they met any of them, they would be in danger. Even so, the two of them still suppressed their powers and entered the primordial battlefield. It looked like they were going for broke. If they got it right, they would be able to reach the pinnacle of martial arts and fight against the way of heaven. If they got it wrong, they might not even be able to leave the primordial battlefield alive. They might not even be able to reach the pinnacle of martial arts and fight against the way of heaven. Longao's face also became a little solemn. He knew that if Tong Zun and Long Tian could not find the entrance to the primordial forbidden ground must be hidden. Longao had asked the 10 blood Kirins where the entrance to the primordial forbidden ground was. Unfortunately, the 10 blood Kirins did not know where the entrance to the primordial forbidden ground was. They were in big trouble. Longao didn't show himself because he knew how much trouble he would be in if the two of them discovered him. As long as he followed the two of them and found the entrance, it would be equivalent to him finding the entrance himself. Watch the fire from the other side of the river and reap the benefits from it. From the beginning to the end, Tong Zun and Long Tian didn't know that their common enemy had been following them. If the two of them knew about this, what would they think? Tong Zun and Long Tian didn't waste any time. They immediately continued to search for the entrance to the ancient forbidden grounds. The ancient forbidden lands covered a vast area. As far as the eye could see, it was a desolate land. 3 days later, Tong Zun, Long Tian, and even Longao couldn't find the entrance to the ancient forbidden grounds. However, at this moment, people were rushing over from all directions. All of them were from the 10 direction cauldrons, including Yi Fei. There were more than 10,000 people from the 10 direction tripod who had entered the ancient battlefield. However, in just a few dozen days, half of the 10,000 people had been lost, which was a total of 5,000 people. What did that mean? One should know that most of the people who had entered the ancient battlefield were in the Supreme Tao realm. There were empty God realm warriors, spirit focus realm warriors, hierarch realm warriors, and even emperor God warriors. It could be said that the 10,000 people who had entered the ancient battlefield were the elites of the Tianwu continent. Every one of them lost was one of them. If it was outside, losing 5,000 Supreme Dao and Supreme Dao warriors in 10 days would shake the entire Tianwu continent. However, in the ancient battlefield, not to mention losing 5,000 people, even if all of them were lost, it would be a matter of course. There was nothing to be surprised about. That was the danger of the ancient battlefield. The 5,000 people arrived at the ancient battlefield one after another. When everyone saw Tong Zun and Long Tian, they were dumbfounded. They didn't know why the two old ancestors were there. Everyone knew. Nirvana Realm warriors were unable to enter the ancient battlefield. If that was the case, how did Long Tian and Tong Zun enter? Many people had already guessed that the main reason why the two ancestors were able to enter the ancient battlefield was that the two ancestors had forcefully suppressed their strength. Otherwise, if a Nirvana Realm martial artist entered the ancient battlefield, only death would await them. They would not even have the slightest chance of survival. Old ancestors. Seeing the old ancestor, Yi Fei was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. Ever since he was chased by Longao, Yi Fei was already scared to the extreme. Along the way, he was always careful, afraid that he would see Longao and be chased again. You have seen Longao? The two of them entered the primordial battlefield this time not only to search for the origin energy, but more importantly, to kill Longao. Seeing Yi Fei's expression, the two of them were almost certain that Yi Fei had definitely seen Longao before. As expected. Old ancestors, I have indeed seen Longao. In the following time, Yi Fei roughly explained everything that had happened before. Yi Fei only briefly skipped over the matter of him being chased by Longao. After all, this matter was too shameful. Even he himself was embarrassed to say it. Tong Zun and Long Tian were sly old foxes. How could they not understand the meaning behind Yi Fei's words? The two of them were very surprised. They knew the difference between Yi Fei and Longao. Could Longao kill Yi Fei by himself? If Yi Fei hadn't said it himself, the two of them wouldn't have believed it. Both of them knew that Longao had many secrets. Longao definitely couldn't do it with his strength alone. However, there were too many variables in Longao. Brother Long, what do you think? Long Tian cursed in his heart. Originally, everything was under his control. However, Longao was too unpredictable and was completely out of his control. It was also because of this reason that Longao wanted to kill Longao at all costs just in case. Since we have already entered, let's kill Longao. No matter what happens, we can't let him leave the ancient battlefield alive. Longao was too unpredictable and couldn't be left alive. Tong Zun obviously knew what Long Tian meant. He also had the same idea. He smiled and said, Longao, I don't believe that he can leave the ancient battlefield alive. Looking at the two old ancestors in front of him, Yi Tian said helplessly, Old ancestors, Longao's strength isn't that great. However, the mysterious expert beside him is very powerful. If I'm not wrong, the mysterious expert should be a Nirvana Realm martial artist. With our current strength. Yi Fei didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning in his words was very clear. P.S. 3 chapters today. 10 chapters tomorrow. Stay up all night tonight. Brothers of the same level can wait. Chapter 1355. Mysterious Expert? Tong Zun and Long Tian turned solemn when they heard what Yi Fei said. They had overlooked the mysterious expert beside Longao. Just like what Yi Fei had said, Longao alone was nothing to worry about. According to what Yi Fei had said, the mysterious expert might be a Nirvana Realm warrior. What could the mysterious expert do if they were outside? Tong Zun and Long Tian were confident that they would be able to kill Luo Yunyang in a 2-on-1 situation. But now, they were in the ancient battlefield, and they had suppressed their powers to enter the ancient battlefield. In other words, they were no longer Nirvana Realm martial artists, but God Emperor martial artists. How could Emperor gods compare to Nirvana realm warriors? It was a complete joke. Tong Zun and Long Tian were sure that they would definitely die if they met a Nirvana realm warrior. They would be lying if they said that they weren't worried. Brother Tong, it would be hard for us to win if we were to fight them head-on. Tong Zun nodded. He knew about it too. If so, let's not bother about Longao. Let's see how we can find the entrance. From the beginning to the end, both Tong Zun and Long Tian didn't take the 5,000 people seriously. Their goal was to find the origin energy. Even if the 5,000 people obtained the origin energy, it wouldn't be of any use. In other words, only when a Nirvana realm martial artist obtained the origin energy and successfully fused with it, would they be able to break through the final bottleneck and reach the so-called peak of the martial way. As for the other opportunities, they wouldn't interfere if they could give it to others. Of course, the 5,000 plus people were well aware of the two's intentions. So, when everyone saw Tong Zun and Long Tian enter the ancient forbidden grounds, after a short moment of shock, they weren't too surprised. They knew that the two of them wouldn't fight with them for the opportunities as they wanted different things. Everyone, listen up. Everyone looked at the two of them when they heard what Long Tian said. Under such circumstances, everyone had tacitly agreed that Long Tian and Tong Zun were the leaders. Even though the two of them had suppressed their powers and were only in the realm of Emperor God, everyone knew clearly that once the battle started, no one would be able to win against the two of them. We are looking for opportunities in the ancient forbidden land. From now on, we have a common enemy and we hope to find the entrance. Yes. 10 sides stood like a tripod, fighting openly and covertly. However, at the moment, everyone from the 10-direction cauldron was listening to the orders of Tong Zun and Long Tian. In the next moment, everyone started to look for the entrance. The power of 1 or 2 people couldn't be compared to the power of 5,000 people. They weren't on the same level. Tong Zun and Long Tian looked at each other, and they were surprised. It wasn't easy to find the entrance to the ancient forbidden land with just the two of them alone. However, things were much better now. With the help of 5,000 people, the chances of finding the entrance were much higher. Long, we can't let anyone know about this. Once we find the source energy, we'll kill everyone here, including your people and mine, without mercy. Hearing the old ancestor and Long Tian's words, Yi Fei was shocked. Silence. The two of them were clear. In order to keep the secret, they were willing to kill everyone here. Am I not going to be spared? Tong Zun seemed to know what Yi Fei was thinking. He smiled and said, Yi Fei, make a blood oath later. Yi Fei was overjoyed. Yi Fei wasn't a fool. He knew what Tong Zun meant. As long as he didn't die, he was willing to do anything, let alone make a blood oath. Yes. The reason why the two of them wanted to do this was simple. It turned out that, even if the two of them got the Nirvana realm and devoured it, they wouldn't be able to refine it in a short time. No one knew how long it would take. Because of that, the two of them weren't confident that they could refine and integrate the Nirvana realm in a short time. If the other old men were to cause trouble at this time, it would affect them greatly. In order to prevent any mistakes, the two of them decided to kill everyone here, including the disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance and the disciples of the Long family. In order to reach the pinnacle of martial arts, the two of them didn't care about the disciples of their own sections. Even if it was their family, their wives and children, they wouldn't hesitate to kill anyone on the path to the pinnacle of martial arts. That was the temptation of reaching the pinnacle of martial arts. In the distance, seeing so many people looking for the entrance, Longao had no choice but to leave the ancient forbidden land slowly. The strength of 5,000 people was no small matter. Even if Longao was confident, he would definitely be discovered. Once he was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to leave the ancient forbidden land alive if Tong Zun and Long Tian worked together. Brother Long, my sister and I have sensed the entrance to the ancient forbidden land. Longao, who had just left the ancient forbidden land, was extremely surprised when he heard Bai Ling's words. It was as if he had found it without any effort. He was worried about how to find the entrance to the ancient Forbidden Land, but he didn't expect that Bai Ling and Xiling had already found it. Where is it? Longao was a little impatient. He wasn't interested in the origin energy because Longao had decided to rely on his own strength to reproduce the so-called origin energy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen to give up the origin energy back then. If Longao had chosen to refine and integrate the origin energy back then, he believed that he would be able to break through the Nirvana realm and reach the pinnacle of martial arts in less than 100 years. However, in the end, Longao still chose to give up. Once this matter was known by others, he would probably be scolded by everyone. They would scold Longao for being a prodigal. Brother Long. Looking at the anxious Brother Long, Bai Ling sighed deeply and said helplessly, Brother Long, to be honest, there are dangers everywhere in the ancient Forbidden Land. Even if the seal is at its weakest now, once you enter, you will be doomed if you are careless. Do you really want to go in? Until now, Bai Ling still didn't want Longao to enter the ancient Forbidden Land. How could Longao not know about Bai Ling's worries? A warm current flowed through his heart. However, since things had come to this point, he couldn't choose to give up. Opportunities were given to those who were prepared. As the saying goes, no danger, no opportunity. Chapter 1356. Bai Ling, don't worry about me. I'm confident that I can leave the primordial battlefield alive. Bai Ling knew Longao's character very well. Longao wouldn't change his mind once he had decided on something. Longao, the entrance to the ancient forbidden place is right under Tong Zun and Long Tian's feet. Huh! Longao was a little shocked when he heard Xiling mention the entrance to the ancient forbidden grounds. He had never imagined that the entrance to the ancient forbidden grounds would be right under their feet. Even if Tong Zun and Long Tian were beaten to death, they wouldn't expect the entrance to be right under their feet. With this, Longao started to feel troubled. Longao knew that although he knew where the entrance was, it was almost impossible for him to enter. What should he do? As though he knew what Longao was thinking, Xiling said, Longao, it's fine even if they enter the ancient forbidden place together. What do you mean? Longao was curious. Why was it fine for Tong Zun and Long Tian to enter the ancient forbidden place? Was there something fishy going on? Longao, I believe you already know that the ancient forbidden place is actually the place where the primordial battlefield was sealed. It's dangerous inside. Even if everyone enters, it's uncertain if they'll be able to come out alive. Only those who were alive could enter, and those who weren't. Longao understood what Xiling meant. He smiled as he knew what he should do. Longao didn't hesitate at all. It wouldn't do him any good to drag things out for too long. In the ancient forbidden place, Tong Zun and Long Tian stood where they were as they scanned their surroundings. With the help of more than 5,000 people, they didn't have to do it themselves. The two of them had decided that if the 5,000 people couldn't find the entrance, it would mean that they weren't alive and they could only choose to leave. They wouldn't give up until the very last moment. Longao? Looking at the black-clothed young man with blood-red hair, the two of them felt quite shocked. They did not know why Longao would appear here. Could it be that their eyes were playing tricks on them? The more Longao acted like this, the more uncertain the two felt. Tong Zun, Long Tian, how have you been? Seeing Longao suddenly appear, everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at Longao. Was Longao not afraid of death? Could it be that Longao was really so confident? Everyone was dumbfounded. Many of them admired Longao very much. They asked themselves, if they were in his shoes, would they have the courage to show up? Longao, you're really arrogant. He wasn't worried at all. He smiled. Longao looked coldly at the two people in front of him, ignoring everyone around him. In Longao's opinion, as long as Long Tian and Tong Zun didn't make a move, he believed that no one would dare to make a move. Cut the crap. You guys entered the primordial battlefield because you want to enter the ancient forbidden ground. You know the entrance? The two of them weren't fools. Since Longao had already said so, They would be speechless if they still couldn't figure it out. Nodding with a smile, Longao said, Tongzun, Long Tian, you and I both want to enter the ancient forbidden ground. Since I know the entrance, let's enter together. However, you guys have to agree to one condition. What condition? Even if Longao knew the entrance, the two of them didn't immediately agree to Longao's condition because they didn't know what Longao would ask for. If Longao told them to go and die, would they really go and die? Longao smiled again. His face was filled with disdain and contempt, and even more disdain. Before leaving the primordial battlefield, you guys can't do anything to me. It's that simple? Tongzun and Long Tian didn't seem to believe Longao's condition. Was Longao that simple? It's that simple. The two of them stared at the youth in front of them. Don't agree? The two of them were very depressed. They had forcefully suppressed their strength and risked their lives to enter the primordial battlefield. If they couldn't find the entrance and enter the ancient forbidden ground, wouldn't they have come in vain? Furthermore, they would have wasted a rare opportunity. If the two of them obtained the source energy and broke through to the peak of the martial path, would they still care about Longao? Thinking of this, the two of them sneered inside. How could Longao not know how shameless the two of them were? If source energy was so easy to obtain, Tian Dao and Master Godly Mathematician wouldn't be the only ones in the Tianwu continent who had broken through to the peak of the martial path. Longao, we can agree to it. If you don't believe us, we can make a blood oath. Longao waved his hand. Longao looked very generous. He said, I believe you. Longao didn't waste time talking nonsense. He walked over to Tongzun and Long Tian and pointed at their feet. What a bunch of trash. The entrance to the ancient forbidden ground is down there. Before anyone could react, Longao turned around and looked at Yifei. Yifei's expression changed. He was really afraid of Longao. An ordinary person wouldn't dare do anything to him in front of the two ancestors. But Longao wasn't safe. Yifei, consider yourself lucky. Those 4 simple words made Yifei's expression even more gloomy. Many people had witnessed Longao chasing after him. Many of them were angry at Longao. If he hadn't been lucky, 50 of them would have died at the hands of the Blood Kirin. No matter how angry Yifei was, he didn't dare say anything. After all, Yifei wasn't confident. Longao was crazy, and he had dared to cause trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance twice. Why wouldn't he dare do something to him in front of the two ancestors? That was almost impossible. Yifei heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, because the mysterious expert beside Longao was no longer there. Longao, is the entrance to the ancient forbidden ground really below us? Believe it or not, that's up to you. Longao looked annoyed. It didn't seem like he cared about Tongzun and Long Tian at all. Everyone felt a headache coming on. Who were Tongzun and Long Tian? These were 2 sect masters, the strongest warriors under the heavenly Tao and the divine mathematician in the sky martial continent. However, Longao did not put them in his eyes. He was truly arrogant to the extreme. The two of them believed him. They couldn't think of any reason why Longao would lie to them. Unless Longao was bored and had nothing better to do. It seemed as if Longao wanted to enter the ancient forbidden ground, but they were lucky. The entrance to the ancient forbidden ground was right below them. Longao couldn't enter, and the mysterious elite that had accompanied him was no longer there. Otherwise, why would Longao be so polite as to tell them where the entrance to the ancient forbidden ground was? They didn't believe it. Chapter 1357. The entrance to the Forbidden Land was right beneath their feet. Tongzun and Long Tian looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. They had searched high and low for it, and now they had found it so easily. Longao, do you know how to open the entrance to the Forbidden Land? So what if I know? Longao looked at them coldly. He did not seem to care about them at all. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe that Longao had ignored the 2 old ancestors. Who were the 2 old ancestors? They were the strongest martial artists below the peak of martial arts. Even a Nirvana realm martial artist would not dare to offend them, let alone Longao. However, Tong Zun and Long Tian were not angry at all. To them, everything was worth it as long as they could obtain the origin energy. As for Longao, the two of them had full confidence. Once the two of them found the origin energy and refined it to reach the peak of martial arts, then a small Longao would be able to kill him at any time. There was a knife hidden in a smile. Tong Zun and Long Tian moved aside. Their intentions were clear. Since things had come to this, Longao did not hesitate any longer. He followed the method that Xiling told him. In the next moment, a black whirlwind appeared where Tong Zun and Long Tian were standing. Space-time stone door. Everyone was overjoyed when they saw the black whirlwind that suddenly appeared in front of them. It seemed that Longao could really open the entrance to the Forbidden Land. Let's go. Tong Zun and Long Tian ignored Longao and led Yi Fei and the rest into the space-time stone door. In the blink of an eye, everyone had disappeared without a trace. Longao sneered. Similarly, he did not stop at all and followed after. In the ancient Forbidden Land, it was a huge, dark, barren space. As soon as everyone entered, their faces changed. They did not dare to be careless, and immediately started to block the surrounding aura. Let's kill Longao first. Brother Tong, we have already promised Longao. If we attack now, it will be. Long Tian didn't continue, but the meaning behind his words was very clear. Tong Zun sneered. We did not make a blood oath. As long as we don't kill Longao, I won't be confident. In the end, Tong Zun was still wary of Longao. The reason was simple. Longao was too unpredictable. Even if he found the origin energy, Tong Zun didn't know why, but he was still a little worried. Although this worry was ridiculous. Long Tian's expression was very ugly because if he chose to make a move at this time, wouldn't he become a joke to the people around him? No one else. Except Yi. However, Long Tian was also very clear in his heart that Longao's variable was too great. If this person was not eliminated, it would always be a big trouble in the future. Thinking up to here, even if he had 10,000 unwillingness to make a move in his heart, Long Tian still prepared to kill Longao. What happened? It was unknown if Longao did it on purpose or if he had already guessed the shamelessness of the two of them. Before the two of them could make a move, another Longao suddenly appeared beside Longao. He looked exactly the same, and even his aura was exactly the same. Mysterious expert? Long Tian, Tong Zun, and the others were all dumbfounded when they sensed that the two Longaos were exactly the same. They didn't know what was going on. With what Yi Fei said as an example, the two of them did not dare to make a move casually. It was better to be safe than sorry. According to what Yi Fei said, the mysterious expert beside Longao was most likely a Nirvana realm martial artist. Even if he wasn't, he believed that this person's strength was also very powerful. The two of them did not want to take the risk as they had entered the Forbidden Land. It would be easy to kill Longao. If they made a mistake, forget about getting the origin energy, they might not even be able to leave the Forbidden Land alive. Brother Tong, what should we do now? What else can we do? Tong Zun shrugged helplessly. Glancing at the 5,000 people in the surroundings, the two of them finally decided not to kill now. They would wait until they found the source energy before making a move. Otherwise, if they were to make a move now and failed to find the source energy, wouldn't it be an unnecessary move? Everyone was observing the Forbidden Land. According to legend, there were opportunities everywhere in the Forbidden Land. If one could obtain them easily, not only would his strength increase, but he could also obtain peerless treasures and skills. Not only that. Before entering the ancient battlefield, the marvelous mathematician had predicted that the Forbidden Land would be the weakest in the past 10,000 years. It would be 100 times easier to enter the Forbidden Land to obtain opportunities. Precisely because of this, more than 5,000 people shot off in different directions. In just a short while, everyone had disappeared without a trace. Everyone was very clear that only the fated ones could obtain the opportunity. Yifei also quickly left to search for their own opportunities. Only 3 people remained. One was Longao, one was Tongzun, and the last was Longao. Longao, I hope you can leave the Forbidden Land alive. At that time, I hope you'll bring me a new surprise. Tongzun wanted nothing more than for Longao to die right now. However, he shamelessly said the opposite. Longao looked down on the 2 of them. He sneered, but didn't say anything. In his heart, wasting any more words with them was just a waste of time. Chapter 1358. In the ancient Forbidden Lands. The surrounding aura could erode a warrior's divine soul. Everyone had already sensed this. Resisting with all their might, no one's divine soul was successfully corroded. This could be considered a good start. Everyone knew that if it was in the past, less than a third of them would have survived. The reason was simple. The marvelous mathematician had predicted that the ancient Forbidden Lands were at their weakest in the past 10,000 years. In other words, the ancient Forbidden Lands were much less dangerous at this time. Longao entered the ancient Forbidden Lands and flew toward the southeast according to Xiling's guidance. He was so fast that he was like a breeze. Had Xiling entered the ancient Forbidden Lands before? Longao was sure that Xiling and Bai Ling had entered the ancient Forbidden Lands before. However, Longao didn't ask, and Violet Spirit and Bai Ling didn't take the initiative to say either. Both sides were well aware that once some things were made clear, there wouldn't be much meaning. Longao, don't go near the seal. With your current strength, even if the seal is 10,000 times weaker, it can easily kill you. He nodded. Longao was not the slightest bit angry when he heard Xiling's words because he knew very well that what Xiling said was almost always right. Since the seal here could seal the entire primordial battlefield, it was obvious how terrifying it was. Longao was not a fool, and his brain was not flooded with water. Of course, he would not provoke the seal. Longao knew his situation very well. He had successfully broken through to the Divine Realm, and was only 1 step away from the peak Divine Realm. Just 1 step. Once he stepped out, his cultivation would break through to the Supreme Divine Realm. Longao wasn't too ambitious. As long as he could break through to the Supreme Divine Realm in the ancient battlefield, it would be a blessing in disguise. Xiling knew what Longao was thinking. That was why he didn't stop Longao from entering the ancient Forbidden Lands. If Longao wanted to break the seal, he believed that Xiling would definitely stop him. Sky Martial Continent, 9 Heavens. Master God Diviner coldly stared down at the primordial battlefield, motionless. This time, tens of thousands of people had entered the primordial battlefield, but only a few hundred of them would be able to come out alive. What kind of concept was that? These people were all peak figures of the martial heaven continent. But in the eyes of the clairvoyant? He was nothing. That's right, he was nothing. The God Diviner wasn't just an expert at the peak of the martial path. He was the true #1 expert of the martial heaven continent. Even the heavenly Das and Long Batian didn't dare to provoke him. In Master God Diviner's eyes, everyone who entered the ancient battlefield, including the Nirvana realm martial artists, was like an ant. Tongzun and Long Tian, you two are really smart. You can even think of such a method. Master God Diviner suddenly laughed. When Tongzun and Long Tian entered the primordial battlefield, they thought that they could deceive everyone. However, they did not expect that Master Clairvoyant was already aware of their every move. If the 2 of them knew that Master God Diviner knew that they had entered the primordial battlefield, who knew what they would think? The heavenly Daos and Long Batian are always unpredictable. If we can create 2 more peak experts, perhaps things will change. After thinking about it for so many years, Tongzun and Long Tian are the most suitable. I'll give you 2 a chance. If Master God Diviner's words were heard by others, they would probably be frightened to death. Could it be that Master God Diviner could control the number of peak experts and their success or failure? Time trickled by. After an unknown amount of time, Master God Diviner looked into the distance, his face filled with vicissitudes. He looked like an old man who had one foot in the grave. As long as Master God Diviner didn't reveal his identity, no one would believe that he was the true #1 expert of the Martial Heaven continent. 9 Provinces continent. Dragon Valley. In a secluded courtyard at the back of a mountain. This courtyard was a forbidden area of the Dragon Valley. No matter who it was, even Longao, they wouldn't enter. Every few days, servants would enter to clean it up. Other than that, anyone who dared to enter would be heavily punished by the Dragon Valley. In the courtyard, the environment was very elegant. A burst of fragrance assailed the nostrils. Yuyin sat alone by the flower pond, quietly looking at the flowers in front of her. Her face was melancholic and lonely. She didn't have the slightest bit of the charm of a domineering woman in the past. "Brother Long, how are you now?" Yuyin had asked many people about what had happened before. Although no one was willing to tell the truth, she was very clear about what had happened. That was right. Yuyin was always worried about Longao. However, from the beginning to the end, Yuyin had already decided that no matter what happened, as long as Longao fell, she would pledge her life to follow him. "If you don't leave me, I will follow you in life and death." Yuyin. Hearing the voice behind her, Yuyin sighed in her heart. She forced a smile and said, "Grandpa, you're here." Every time Wang Yidao saw his granddaughter like this, he had a deep sense of helplessness. However, he was very supportive of the relationship between Yuyin and Longao. "If you don't leave me, I will follow you in life and death." Who wouldn't be envious of such a relationship? "Yuyin, you don't have to worry. Don't you believe in Aora's strength and luck?" Believe? If it was in the past, Yuyin would believe 100%. He knew that the 10 forces were not to be trifled with. "Brother Wang, my grandson, I don't have to tell you. In just a few years, Aora has grown to such a level. Sometimes I can't believe it. Is this really Aora?" Wang Yidao didn't say anything. At this time, he didn't know what to say. "You and I both know Aora's situation. Suddenly Aora soared like a hidden dragon. If I'm not wrong, Aora must have encountered some kind of opportunity. This is a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. This time Aora and Yuyin will go to the Martial Heaven continent. I believe that they will be fine. Brother Wang, we must believe in them. Then what should we do now?" Wang Yidao seemed to be very anxious. After all, the 2 of them were his grandsons. He couldn't let anything happen to either of them. If he could go there personally, Wang Yidao believed that he wouldn't hesitate. "Wait and see. There's only one thing we can do now, and that is to increase our strength as soon as possible. This way, when the 2 children and the 10-direction cauldron go to war in the future, we'll be able to help. Otherwise, everything will be nonsense." Increase strength? It was easier said than done. Of course, Wang Yidao knew how difficult it was to increase one's strength, especially in the Dragon Valley. The path of martial arts was against the heavens. One had to be careful at every step. Otherwise, not only would all the previous efforts be wasted, but it would also directly regress. Longao knew what Wang Yidao was thinking. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. When Aora left, he left us some good things. As long as we work hard, breaking through to the divine realm won't be a problem. Then, we can use these things to continue to increase our strength." "That's good." Wang Yidao wasn't worried about the divine realm at all. This was because they had all inherited the inheritance of the divine realm. As long as they had enough time and worked hard, he believed that all of them would be able to reach the divine realm. Next, Longao led everyone in the Dragon Valley to start cultivating. This was because everyone knew that as the feud between Longao, the Long family, and the Martial Artists Alliance continued to escalate, they believed that a battle was inevitable. In this case, they had to be fully armed, hoping to help Longao. Tianwu Continent, ancient battlefield. Longao was very careful. He focused all of his attention and continued to search for the so-called opportunity. Until now, he still did not know what the so-called opportunity was. He had asked Violet Spirit, but Violet Spirit had not said anything from the beginning to the end. Longao felt as if he had entered a maze, and he almost fainted. The ancient forbidden land was too big, and there were chi currents everywhere that corroded the soul. He couldn't be careless, or it wouldn't be good for him. Xiling, what should I do now? Unknowingly, Longao had already arrived in front of a huge black stone tablet. The entire tablet was emitting a strange chi current that was corroding his soul at an unbelievable angle. Longao was startled. He did not dare to be careless. He immediately began to circulate the energy in his body. He continuously rejected the strange airflow emitted by the black stone tablet. As he went in and out, Longao discovered that his breathing had become somewhat rapid. Longao, hurry up and circulate the firmament devouring art. This chi current is very beneficial to you. Remember, after you devour it, don't refine it. Store it all in your dantian. I'll tell you what to do later. Longao naturally wouldn't be careless in this situation. He immediately circulated the firmament devouring art. The firmament devouring art came from the primal chaos stone tablet, and it possessed terrifying power. However, with Longao's current strength, he was unable to unleash the full power of the firmament devouring art. Even so, the firmament devouring art was enough to devour the strange energy coming from the black stone tablet. As soon as he used the firmament devouring art, a black whirlpool appeared behind Longao. Longao had also gone crazy. He was operating the firmament devouring art crazily. The black vortex was devouring the strange power around it. It was so fast that it was like the wind was blowing. It was too abnormal. Just as Xiling had said, with the help of the firmament devouring skill, it was more than enough to devour the strange energy in the surroundings. Longao was overjoyed. He circulated the firmament devouring skill even more vigorously to devour the strange energy in the surroundings. Xiling, how long will it take to devour it? Longao was very uncomfortable with this situation. He always thought that he was like a chess piece that was controlled by Xiling. Longao didn't like this feeling, but he had no choice. After all, Xiling was very familiar with the ancient forbidden land. If he didn't help him, he might not even be able to leave here alive, let alone obtain the opportunity. Strength, it was still strength. Longao was very clear that no matter where he went, strength was the most important thing. Without strength, no matter what time it would be a tragedy. Just like now, he didn't have the slightest strength to resist. He had to listen to whatever Xiling said. It was really a pain in the ass. Longao cursed fiercely in his heart. There was no other way. He didn't have enough strength now. However, Longao wasn't worried. He was very confident in himself. He believed that it wouldn't take long for him to reach the Nirvana realm. He would rely on his own efforts and talent to reach the so-called peak of martial arts. Longao, devour as much as you can. The more you devour, the better it will be for you. Not only will it increase your strength, once the energy you devour is integrated into your divine realm, I believe that you will be an invincible existence in the divine realm. You can even kill a peak divine realm expert instantly. Damn, it would be a lie if Longao said that he wasn't surprised. After all, who wouldn't want to be able to kill a divine realm expert instantly? Longao was confident that he could kill a peak divine realm expert with his current strength. However, he still couldn't kill a peak divine realm expert instantly. Invincible in the divine realm. Longao already knew that. He believed that the strange airflow he was devouring was definitely not simple. After all, with Xiling's strength, he valued the strange airflow so much. There was no need to talk about other things. Since that was the case, Longao naturally chose to believe in Xiling. This was because he knew that if Xiling wanted to harm him, he would have had many opportunities before. There was no need for him to wait until now. Devour. According to Xiling's instructions, Longao crazily circulated the firmament devouring art. The black vortex devoured the strange airflow around him at an increasingly fast speed. In the end, even Longao's body couldn't be seen clearly anymore. Sister, is Brother Long all right? I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. As for whether Longao can obtain an opportunity, that will depend on his luck and opportunity. Even I can't help him. Hearing this, Bai Ling was shocked. However, Bai Ling knew that her sister was right. Even if the two of them helped Brother Long find an opportunity, whether he could obtain it or not still depended on him. Even the two of them couldn't do anything. They could only watch helplessly. With a deep sigh, Bai Ling was very worried about Longao. However, there was nothing she could do. Senior Brother Yi, look. At this time, Yi Fei slowly walked over with dozens of people. One of them suddenly shouted. Yi Fei's expression changed a little. However, he was only pleasantly surprised. He was as excited as a cheetah that had seen its prey. Chapter 1360. Yi Fei never thought that he would see Longao at this moment. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. You guys go and test him. If it was in the past, Yi Fei would definitely not take Longao seriously, and would definitely test him personally. But now, with the previous lesson, even if Yi Fei was given 10,000 guts, he would definitely not dare to casually make a move. It was better to be safe than sorry. If he were to die in Longao's hands, who would he find to reason with? Just in case, Yi Fei still let his junior brothers try and see what was going on with Longao at this moment. Himself? Hearing that senior brother Yi wanted the four of them to test him, their faces instantly changed. As the saying goes, a man's life is like a tree's shadow. The four of them had heard too many legends about Longao. Especially when Longao chased after Yi Fei, it was still fresh in their minds. Swallowing their saliva, the four of them hesitated. Humph! With a heavy snort, Yi Fei's face instantly turned gloomy. Senior Brother Yi, please don't be angry. We'll go now. The four of them shrugged helplessly. Senior Brother Yi was famous for being ruthless. Moreover, at this moment, if Senior Brother Yi wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. The four of them carefully approached Longao. At this moment, the speed at which Longao devoured the strange energy around him became slower and slower. Gradually, Longao's body gradually appeared. If not for this, Yi Fei and the others would not have been able to recognize Longao. 10 meters. 8 meters. 3 meters. 1 meter. When the four of them were less than a third of a meter away from Longao, their bodies suddenly moved. Things had already come to this point. It was either you die or I die. The meaning of the four of them was very clear. With the four of them working together, they did not believe that they could not kill Longao. After all, Longao was only an earth god while the four of them were heavenly gods and divine kings. The four of them working together were very powerful. Ah! Ah! A series of blood-curdling screams resounded. Before Yi Fei could react, the four people who were preparing to attack and kill Longao suddenly let out miserable screams that resounded throughout the heaven and earth. What happened? Seeing the four players enveloped by the black streams of energy, aside from their miserable cries, no one knew what was happening to them. It turned out that the black airflow released by the black stone tablet could not only erode a martial artist's divine soul, but it could also erode a martial artist's physical body. Ordinary martial artists, even if they were supreme down martial artists or supreme down martial artists, could not contend against this black airflow. The main reason Longao had been able to resist and devour it was because he had the firmament devouring art from the primal chaos stone tablet. Not only that. After entering the black airflow space, Xiling and Bai Ling helped him. This was also the real reason why Longao's divine soul and body were not corroded by the black airflow. As for the four of them, the situation was completely different. When they had approached Longao, they had entered the black airflow space. With their strength, how could they resist the corrosion of the black airflow? The result was obvious. Before the four of them could react, they had been devoured by the black airflow. Not even their bones were left. Seeing this, Yi Fei and the others were shocked. Fear was written all over their faces. Could it be that Longao had been trapped by the black airflow? Thinking of this, Yi Fei did not leave. Instead, he wanted to use this opportunity to see if he could kill Longao. Senior brother, let's leave. Yi Fei did not want to leave, but the remaining 6 were very afraid. They could not wait to leave immediately. The scene of the 4 of them being swallowed by the black airflow was still vivid in their minds. Yi Fei shook his head and said with a smile, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We cannot give it up so easily." Looking coldly at Longao, who was dozens of meters away, Yi Fei's mind began to churn. He wanted to find a way to kill Longao. If Yi Fei did not leave, the remaining 6 did not dare to leave. Even if Yi Fei was one of them, one could not judge a book by its cover. Who knew if Yi Fei would suddenly go crazy and attack them? "Senior brother Yi, what should we do now?" The 6 of them were very depressed. They did not know why they had to deal with Longao. After all, their main purpose in entering the primordial battlefield this time was to find an opportunity, not to deal with Longao. There was no distinction between priority and secondary. Even if the 6 of them were unhappy and unwilling, they could only be angry and not say anything. Due to their different statuses and strength, they were destined to not dare to say anything. "We don't need to take the risk in close range. However, if we attack from a distance, I believe the success rate is very high." Yi Fei was not sure if Longao was dead or alive. Longao was only shrouded by the black airflow. It was like a huge black vortex. "All right." Yi Fei and the other 6 did not hesitate, and immediately began to attack from a distance. However, in the next second, Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. Before the 7 of them could react, Longao's laughter rang out behind them. Time rewind. In a situation where the difference in strength was too great, Longao would not easily use his time sure-kill skill. However, the 7 of them were too careless to think that he would suddenly disappear. This was the best time to use his time sure-kill skill. Not only that, Longao had already devoured the surrounding black airflow to a certain extent. Although it was forcibly stopped by Yi Fei and the others, Longao was surprised to find that his heavenly god domain, which was a combination of slaughter and lightning, was now completely replaced by the black airflow. In other words, now, Longao's heavenly god domain no longer had the dual attribute aura of lightning and slaughter. Until now, Longao did not know the attribute of the black airflow. He could only temporarily call it a black god domain. According to Ziling, the new divine domain that was formed after devouring the black airflow could be said to be an invincible existence among all the divine domains. Even the supreme divine domain possessed by the supreme divine domain could not compete with the black divine domain. One could imagine how terrifying the black airflow was. The supreme 4 realms were the divine king realm, divine emperor realm, hierarch realm, and divine emperor realm. The god domain was also divided into 4 realms, which corresponded to the supreme 4 realms. They were the divine king realm, divine emperor realm, hierarch realm, and divine emperor realm. These 4 levels of god domain were known as the supreme god domain. The god domain and the supreme god domain were not at the same level. It was like an insurmountable gap. This was also the biggest gap between supreme god domain and supreme god domain. The fact that a black god domain could compete with a supreme god domain, Longao could say that not many people would believe it. It was completely out of the ordinary. Chapter 1361. The 7 of them were shocked. In a normal battle, it was almost impossible for Longao to win against the 6 of them. But now, Longao had already taken the initiative. The black divine domain, in addition to the time sure-kill technique, was completely a sure-kill ultimate move. Especially when the 7 of them had yet to react, the outcome was obvious. Spatial teleportation. Longao's speed was too fast. Like lightning, he arrived in front of the 7 of them in an instant, and punched out with both his fists. At the same time, the 6 people's bodies were also sent flying. Like a kite with a broken string, the 6 of them crashed into the black stone wall. Without a doubt, the 6 of them were swallowed by the black stone wall. They didn't even have time to scream. One had to admit that Yi Fei was indeed powerful. Yi Fei took Longao's punch head-on. He didn't move an inch. Longao was a little surprised because he had full confidence in the power of his fists. Even if Yi Fei was a peak emperor god, it was impossible for him to take his punch head-on. Could it be because of the Nirvana realm? Ha ha ha, Longao, do you really think the Nirvana realm is so weak? Nirvana realm? Hearing those words, Longao was greatly shocked. Because he was very clear what the Nirvana realm that Yi Fei spoke of meant. The 5 realms of the Nirvana realm were divided into Realm of Enlightenment, Heavenly Man, Heavenly Cycle, Fate Calamity, Nirvana, and Rebirth. Strictly speaking, the 5 realms were Realm of Enlightenment, Unity of Heaven and Man, Heavenly Cycle Multiplication, Fate Calamity, Nirvana, and Rebirth. If one wanted to break through from the God Emperor realm to the Nirvana realm, the first step was also the most important step. That was to comprehend the heaven and earth. This step was the most difficult because countless God Emperor martial artists stopped at this step and were unable to step into the Nirvana realm. Could Yi Fei really have Realm of Enlightenment? If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that Yi Fei had officially entered the Nirvana realm? Impossible. Longao knew clearly that if Yi Fei's cultivation had really broken through from the Emperor God realm to the Nirvana realm, it would be impossible for him to enter the primordial battlefield, let alone stand here. Unless they suppressed their strength. However, it was impossible. If suppressing one's strength was as simple as entering the primordial battlefield, anyone could do it. Due to the restrictions of the primordial battlefield, Nirvana realm martial artists were unable to enter. Otherwise, they would be killed by the primordial battlefield. For countless years, the primordial battlefield had been opened so many times, but no one seemed to have been able to enter. Could Yi Fei do it? As if he could guess what Longao was thinking, Yi Fei sneered. Longao, I'm not afraid to tell you that before I entered the primordial battlefield, my cultivation level was indeed at the peak of the Emperor God realm and I was half a step into the Nirvana realm. At this point, Yi Fei did not continue. However, Longao already knew what had happened. If nothing went wrong, before Yi Fei entered the primordial battlefield, his cultivation level was only at the peak of the Emperor God realm. Although he was half a step into the Nirvana realm, he was ultimately still not in the Nirvana realm. In other words, after Yi Fei entered the ancient battlefield, he finally comprehended heaven and earth and successfully entered the Nirvana realm. Yi Fei's luck was pretty good. There were endless opportunities in the primordial battlefield, but how many of those who entered the primordial battlefield could obtain them? It was too difficult. If it was so easy to obtain opportunities, they would be too worthless. Ha ha, Longao, are you afraid? Looking at the silent Longao in front of him, Yi Fei suddenly laughed maniacally because he also felt that his luck was simply too good. Just yesterday, he had been unable to comprehend heaven and earth and successfully broke through to the Nirvana realm. Even if he was half a step into the Nirvana realm, he could not be compared to the real Nirvana realm. Once his cultivation level broke through to the Nirvana realm, Yi Fei was extremely confident that with his current strength, he would be able to deal with Longao easily. In the previous battle, although Longao had killed 6 people with one punch, Yi Fei did not take it seriously at all. Longao, are you afraid? Longao smiled and said, Yi Fei, I have to say that your luck is pretty good. However, even if your cultivation level broke through to the Nirvana realm, so what? It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. Comprehending heaven and earth was the first realm of the Nirvana realm. 5 realms of the Nirvana realm. Once one succeeded in comprehending heaven and earth, they would be able to reproduce the aura of heaven and earth. Nirvana realm warriors were above the supreme divine Tao, and the aura of heaven and earth held a huge advantage. Just as Yi Fei was about to continue talking nonsense, Longao, who had not moved all this while, suddenly moved. Longao's speed was very fast, but Yi Fei's strength was no longer the same as before. There was an earth-shattering change. The difference in strength was too great. Longao was very clear that if he wanted to win, he would not be able to kill Yi Fei even if he used all his trump cards. Let's go. As the saying goes, where there is life, one need not worry about firewood. There would be plenty of opportunities for revenge in the future. There was no need to fight Yi Fei head-on. Thinking of this, Longao fiercely threw out a punch. After dodging Yi Fei, he immediately turned and left. In a short while, his figure had already disappeared without a trace. Want to leave? How could Yi Fei choose to give up such a rare opportunity? However, in the next moment, Yi Fei's face instantly turned gloomy. It was as ugly as it could be because Longao did not leave. Instead, Yi Fei flew towards the black stone wall. Yi Fei abruptly stopped. The lesson of the previous 4 was still vivid in his mind. Although his cultivation had already broken through to the Nirvana realm, Yi Fei still had self-awareness. If he entered the airflow space released by the black stone wall, he believed that only death would await him. Longao, if you are still a man, come out. I want to see if you are as powerful as the legends say. Longao certainly would not fall for the provocation. If others approached the black stone tablet, they might be swallowed up. However, Longao was not worried at all. He came in front of the black stone tablet and said with a smile, Yi Fei, weren't you very arrogant just now? I will give you a chance. As long as you come in, not only will I not fight with you, I will even let you capture me. How about it? Hearing Longao's words, Yi Fei simply wanted to curse in his heart. If he dared to approach the black stone tablet, would he have waited until now? The anger in Yi Fei's heart was like a volcano that was about to erupt. However, in this case, Yi Fei was powerless. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, Longao, it's okay if you don't come out. I'll guard here. I want to see if you can stay inside for a lifetime. Yi Fei's heart was filled with anger. Yi Fei did not continue talking nonsense. He sat on the ground and seemed to have entered a state of cultivation. In front of the black stone tablet, Longao's face was a little solemn. If Yi Fei continued to guard here, it would be a big problem if he wanted to leave smoothly. Yi Fei's meaning was very simple. Entering the ancient battlefield was to search for opportunities. Yi Fei had already successfully comprehended the heaven and earth and broke through to the Nirvana realm. There was no point in continuing. Longao firmly believed that between him and the treasure, Yi Fei would definitely choose him and not the so-called treasure. It seemed that in Yi Fei's opinion, he was too big of a threat. Longao, don't worry about him first. You have just devoured the black stream of air. Now is the best time to cultivate. Longao nodded. Since things had already come to this point, he also knew that since he could not leave for the time being, he would cultivate first. If he could use the black stream of air to break through to the supreme divine realm, it would be a blessing in disguise. Xiling, what should I do? Longao had already witnessed the power of the black stream of air. The reason why he could kill 6 people in one move was entirely because of the black stream of air and his time sure-kill technique. If Yi Fei did not break through to the Nirvana realm, he believed that Yi Fei would have died at this moment. Longao was looking forward to the black stream of air. Xiling said, Longao, it is easy to refine the black stream of air and even easier to break through to the supreme divine realm. However, I do not plan to do so. Why was that? Longao did not have the slightest bit of excitement, nor did he have the slightest bit of impatience, because he was very clear in his heart that Xiling definitely had her own reasons for doing so. Otherwise, just like what Xiling had said earlier, wanting to borrow the black airflow to break through the supreme Tao realm was simply as easy as flipping one's hand. Because of this, Longao did not speak. Brother Long, my sister's intention is actually very simple. We have to look at the long term. You can slowly refine the black stream of air. Perhaps your speed of improvement in the early stage is not very fast, but it will be very beneficial for you. The further you go, the more benefits there will be. I see. Even Bai Ling said so, Longao of course chose to believe. At this time, he asked, I want to ask, what is the origin of this black stone tablet behind me? Intuition told Longao that the black stone tablet behind him was not simple at all. After all, it could devour 6 supreme divine realm warriors in an instant. Even Yi Fei did not dare to get close to it. How could the black stone tablet be ordinary? Sister. Ziling, of course, understood her sister's intentions. She sighed helplessly and said, I hope you won't harm him by telling him. What did this mean? Ziling's words made Longao panic. Brother Long, this black stone tablet possesses a terrifying power. Legend has it that this black stone tablet can control a person's mind. You've seen it just now. It's more than enough to kill a supreme divine Tao expert, and even a Nirvana realm expert. However, my sister and I have already discussed it. It's up to you whether you're willing to take the risk. Bai Ling, what is going on? Until now, Longao was a little confused. He did not know what Bai Ling and Ziling meant. Was the black stone tablet an opportunity? If so, Longao would certainly choose to take the risk. As the saying goes, danger and opportunity coexisted. Without danger, where would the opportunity come from? Brother Long, the opportunity in the black stone tablet, strictly speaking, is more suitable for your partner, Long Ming. Long Ming? Chapter 1362. Longao was a little surprised. Bai Ling, what's going on? Long Ming and Long Chang sent Yuyin back to the Dragon Valley and returned as fast as they could. Under normal circumstances, Longao would not summon his 2 companions. After all, both Long Ming and Long Chang were cultivating separately. Brother Long, Long Ming's physique is very unusual. If he can devour the weapon spirit of the black stone tablet, I believe it will bring unexpected benefits to Long Ming. Weapon spirit? Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. He knew very well what a weapon spirit meant. Any treasure that had a weapon spirit was not an ordinary treasure. For example, the dragon seal had nurtured its own weapon spirit, which was the so-called Long Fu. Longao certainly would not give up on something that would benefit Long Ming. Devour the weapon spirit. Is it dangerous? 70%. That's enough. Longao knew Long Ming's character very well. He was almost exactly the same as himself. He was never afraid of danger. Since the opportunity was right in front of him, if he did not seize it, would Long Ming agree? However, Longao did not make a decision on his own. He still asked Long Ming. He told Long Ming about Bai Ling's general idea. After hearing it, Long Ming did not hesitate at all. He did not even think about it and said, Brother, no matter what happens, I'm willing to try. He was very satisfied. Don't worry, I will do my best to help you. Long Ming smiled, but did not say any more words of thanks. Between brothers, everything was in silence. Bai Ling, what should I do? Brother Long, now my sister and I will join forces to send you into the black stone tablet space. As for whether you can devour the weapon spirit, it will depend on you and Long Ming. Bai Ling was very worried, but Bai Ling also knew very well that Brother Long did not have powerful strength to protect himself. His own safety was always a problem. It was precisely because of this that after Bai Ling and Violet's spirit discussed, they were prepared to help Longao enter the space of the black stone tablet. They hoped that Long Ming would be able to devour the artifact spirit. In that case, Longao's cultivation would also be greatly benefited. Bai Ling, don't worry about me. How could Longao not know about Bai Ling's worries? Bai Ling nodded and said nothing. Next, Bai Ling and Ziling worked together to send Longao into the black stone tablet's space. If it weren't for Bai Ling and Ziling, no one would have thought that there was an independent space inside the black stone tablet. Moreover, the black stone tablet was a treasure with a weapon spirit. Longao disappeared? Yi Fei was very surprised to see Longao suddenly disappear in front of the black stone tablet. Longao, don't even think about using a trick. Yi Fei had full confidence in his own strength. He had been guarding this place without moving, so it was impossible for Longao to leave without making a sound. If the other party really had the strength, he would not have only dared to hide in front of the black stone tablet. Just like that. Yifei was still sitting on the ground, not moving at all. As his strength soared from the God Emperor realm to the Nirvana realm, Yifei had already decided that he would rather not look for the so-called opportunity, and use this opportunity to kill Longao. In the end, Yifei was very wary of Longao. There were too many variables. No one knew how much Longao could achieve in the future. If he reached the Nirvana realm, would he be able to fight against him? No confidence. In this case, Yifei had already decided that no matter what happened, he would kill Longao. He could not let Longao leave the ancient battlefield alive. Tianwu continent. Yuyin had just stepped into the Tianwu continent, and was preparing to look for Longao when she suddenly met someone. This person was none other than Yuyin's master, Hades. Master. Looking at his disciple, Hades sighed deeply in his heart and said helplessly, Yuyin, master has let you down. However, I have no choice in the martial arts world. I hope you can understand master's difficulties. Shameless. If Longao was here, he would definitely curse Hades. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Hades. Hades was shameless to the extreme. Yuyin was not angry at all. She said indifferently, Master, Yuyin will never forget the kindness you have shown me. However, Yuyin will also not forget the harm you have done to Longao. From now on, I am no longer a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance. Hades was not surprised at all. It was as if he had already expected this result. A master for a day is a father for life. No matter what, you will always be my master. Hades was moved. He sighed heavily. Master, I hope you will not harm Longao in the future. Yuyin didn't continue with the unnecessary words. Even so, Hades's expression changed slightly. He could clearly sense the huge change in Yuyin. Hades even had a feeling that if he continued to deal with Longao in the future, this disciple of his would most likely deal with him. If that really happened, what would he do? Would he really have to fight with Yuyin? Hades valued his disciple very much. Otherwise, if Tong Tiandi wanted to deal with Yuyin, Hades would not be so helpless. Yuyin, did you come this time for Longao? Yuyin did not hide anything. She knew very well that even if she did not say it, her master would have guessed it. Otherwise, her master would not have asked this question. Yuyin, I know that you like Longao very much. However, Longao's current situation is besieged on all sides. Not only the Martial Artists Alliance, but even the Long family wants to kill Longao. If you insist on helping Longao. Hades did not continue speaking. However, the meaning of his words was very clear. Whether it was the Martial Artists Alliance or the Long family, they were all powerful forces in the Tianwu continent. There was no need to talk about their strength. Not to mention provoking two superpowers at the same time, even if they casually took out one of them, Longao would not be able to contend against them. Would Yuyin care? If Yuyin was really afraid, she would not have come this time. In Yuyin's eyes, not to mention the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, even if all the other forces were against Longao, she would stand by Longao's side without hesitation. She would not change her mind even if she died. If you do not leave me, I will stay by your side in life and death. This was Yuyin. Longao persevered for 10 years without giving up. In the end, he turned the tables. Yuyin also persevered for 10 years. However, she persevered for 10 years for Longao. She even disregarded her figure and appearance. How many people in the continent could do this? It was impossible for Hades not to know this. It was because of this that Hades felt very helpless. Yuyin, I know your character. Since that is the case, I only want to tell you one thing. Longao has already entered the ancient battlefield. He will not leave the ancient battlefield within a year. Chapter 1363. Primordial Battlefield? Longao entered the primordial battlefield? Yuyin was a little confused after hearing her master's words. Right from the beginning, she did not know why Longao wanted to enter the primordial battlefield, or when he had entered. Master, is there any way to send me into the primordial battlefield? Yuyin was well aware of what the primordial battlefield meant. The primordial battlefield was fraught with danger, and one would be consigned to eternal damnation if they were not careful. Upon hearing that Longao had already entered the primordial battlefield, Yuyin could not wait to enter the primordial battlefield immediately so that they could live and die together. How could the underworld god not know what Yuyin meant? Yuyin, I know what you mean, but I can tell you clearly that no matter who it is, there is no way to enter the primordial battlefield. Yuyin was worried and at a loss of what to do. Yuyin, follow me. You have already sensed heaven and earth, but this is only the first realm of nirvana. The 5 realms of nirvana were respectively heaven and earth, unity of heaven and man, heavenly cycle multiplication, destiny, nirvana, and rebirth. Every increase in the 5 realms of nirvana was a qualitative leap. Yuyin had already successfully sensed heaven and earth and reached the first realm of nirvana, but she was still a long way from the so-called nirvana and rebirth. But at this moment, Yuyin was not in the mood to cultivate at all. Even if there was a rare opportunity in front of her, Yuyin would not take it. Yuyin was only concerned about one thing, and that was Longao's safety. Before the god of the underworld could finish his words, Master, realms are just fleeting clouds to me. In my heart, Longao is the most important person. Everything else is not important in front of me. I only hope that Longao is safe and sound. Otherwise. At this point, Yuyin did not continue. Yuyin's expression was unusually resolute. Yuyin, Longao has entered the primordial battlefield. If nothing goes wrong, he will only come out in 10 months. In front of his disciple, Hades ultimately chose to compromise. Hades didn't want to make the same mistake a second time. Master was indeed wrong before, but Master will not make the same mistake a second time. Yuyin, Master promises you that from now on, Master will not continue to deal with the Longao. Furthermore, Master will help the Longao in the future. Do you believe in Master? Do you believe it? Yuyin knew her master's personality very well. She nodded and said with a smile, Master, your disciple believes that this is the last time. If there is a next time, you and I will break off our relationship and become strangers. He was somewhat moved. Hades nodded and said, Come with me. I hope that after Longao comes out of the primordial battlefield, your cultivation will be able to break through the union of heaven and man. 10 months was neither too long nor too short. Even if Yuyin's talent was great, her body was special, and she had Hades' full support, it was almost impossible for Yuyin to break through 2 realms in a short span of 10 months. Even if it was just 1 realm, it was still quite difficult. Even Hades did not have full confidence in comprehending the union of heaven and man. If it was before, Yuyin would definitely not follow Hades. But now, Yuyin was very clear that as long as her master did not deal with the Longao, she would not know what to do at this time. Since that was the case, she might as well cultivate with her master. The stronger she was, the more help she would be to the Longao. Master, I am willing. He was delighted. Then, the god of the underworld left with Yuyin, and the 2 of them gradually disappeared. Tianwu Continent, Primordial Battlefield, Forbidden Area. Bai Ling and Xiling worked together to send Longao and Long Ming into the Black Stone Tablet space. Inside the Black Stone Tablet space, Longao and Long Ming calmly looked at their surroundings. It was a gray area. There were no rocks, no weeds, no mountains, no rivers. It was an empty gray space. It was especially strange. Big brother, what should we do now? Before entering the Black Stone Tablet space, Bai Ling and Xiling had already told Longao what to do. After thinking about it, Longao said, Long Ming, you have to remember, no matter what happens, don't act recklessly. Do you understand? The Black Stone Tablet space was full of danger. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. Long Ming naturally knew the danger. If he was not careful, not only his own life, but also his big brother's life would be in danger. Long Ming nodded and said very seriously, "Big brother, don't worry. I won't act recklessly. I will listen to your arrangements." Longao was very assured about Long Ming. "Follow me." Longao brought Long Ming and slowly walked forward. Their speed was not very fast because the man and the tiger did not know the situation inside the black stone tablet space. Therefore, the two of them were very careful and focused 120% of their attention. It was better to be safe than sorry. According to Xiling and Bai Ling, the black stone tablet's strength had been forcibly suppressed. Otherwise, they would have died if they entered the black stone tablet space. Longao was very surprised. Who exactly sealed the ancient battlefield? It was scary just thinking about it. There were dangers everywhere in the ancient battlefield. Not only were there Nirvana remnant souls, but there were also Nirvana mythical beasts. Especially in the ancient Forbidden Land, the black stone tablet was definitely not simple. If that was the case, it was hard to imagine how powerful the person or force who sealed the ancient battlefield was. Although he knew very well that Bai Ling and Violet's spirit definitely knew the secret of the primordial battlefield, Longao did not ask because he knew that if the two of them wanted to tell him, they would tell him even if he did not ask. If the two of them did not want to tell him, he believed that the two of them would not tell him no matter how he asked. Chi-chi, 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 at this moment. "Big brother, look!" Longao nodded. Without needing Long Ming to say more, he saw a small snake that was not very long and not very thick appear in front of them. Could it be that the small snake was the black stone tablet's weapon spirit? Xiling and Bai Ling did not say what the black stone tablet's weapon spirit was. "Who are you people?" The small snake spoke in human language and looked very gloomy. Longao and Long Ming were very surprised. The man and the tiger were almost certain that the small grayish-black snake that suddenly appeared in front of them was the black stone tablet's weapon spirit. "Someone to deal with you." "Deal with me? Ha ha ha, human, do you not know how to write the word death?" As expected. "Human, I want to know, how did you come in?" The small grayish-black snake was the black stone tablet's weapon spirit. Because of this, the snake's spirit was very surprised because without its permission, no one could enter here. "How we came in is none of your business." Longao's face was cold. Things had already come to this point. No matter what, he could not back down. Otherwise, not to mention devouring the weapon spirit, he did not even know if he could leave alive. Chapter 1364. Arrogant. The spirit snake was a little surprised. It did not expect that the other party would dare to be so arrogant in its own territory. He was courting death. It was just as Xiling and Bai Ling had guessed. The black stone tablet was a treasure with an artifact spirit, but it was forcibly sealed by the ancient Forbidden Land. The spirit snake could not even use 30% of its strength. Otherwise, Xiling and Bai Ling would not have let Longao take the risk to enter the black tablet space. Even so, Longao was still in great danger. "Good, good, good." After saying "good" 3 times, the spirit snake's body had already scurried out in the next second. He did not dare to be careless. Even if the spirit snake's strength was suppressed by the seal, Longao knew that it would be difficult for him to defeat it. Hence, he had to be careful. Long Ming's strength was there for all to see. Longao did not want anything to happen to his brother. Before Long Ming could react, he summoned him back and disappeared without a trace. Fighting the spirit snake alone. In the blink of an eye, Longao and the spirit snake were engaged in a fierce battle. 10 moves had passed. Poof! After being hit by the spirit snake, Longao's body was sent flying. However, Longao stopped abruptly. He was shocked in his heart. The tool spirit was indeed a tool spirit. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had a chance to defeat it. Hence, Longao used his ultimate moves one by one. Even so, Longao was still forced back. He was almost killed by the spirit snake. Ha 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 ha! The snake spirit laughed crazily. His laughter was filled with contempt, but most of it was disdain. I thought you had some skills. Turns out you're just a newbie. Kid, I admire you. But don't worry. Since you're looking for death, I'll grant you your wish. The spirit snake did not use his full strength just now. He had been testing Longao. To be able to enter the space for no reason, the spirit snake was really afraid of the other party's strength. After the battle, the spirit snake would never have thought that the other party was not a powerhouse, but a rookie. Killing a rookie was as easy as flipping one's hand. Longao was very calm. Even though Longao clearly knew that he was no match for the other party, he still forcefully endured it. This was because before entering, he already knew that the Black Stone Tablet's weapon spirit was extremely powerful. Even if its strength was suppressed, it was still not something that he could contend against. Longao was confident that Xiling and Bai Ling would never harm him. Big brother Long, my sister and I will now draw in the power of the seal. Sealing power? What did that mean? Longao had already guessed that Xiling and Bai Ling must have a way to deal with the weapon spirit. Otherwise, unless the two of them had nothing better to do. Brother Long, with your strength alone, you are no match for the spirit snake. Longao nodded. Regarding this point, Longao was 10,000 times clearer than anyone else. Bai Ling, what should I do now? The power of the seal. Longao knew that the power of the seal that Bai Ling mentioned should be the power that sealed the Black Stone Tablet. How could Xiling and Bai Ling draw in the power of the seal? Longao chose to believe in the two of them. Big brother Long, we will draw in the power of the seal and then draw it into your body. I believe that with your strength and the power of the seal, you will definitely be able to devour the spirit snake. Hearing this, Longao was pleasantly surprised in his heart. Just as the spirit snake shot towards Longao in the space, from an unknown direction, there was suddenly a strong fluctuation. A small black whirlwind appeared and began to spin continuously. It was coming. The spirit snake came quickly and left even faster. His face suddenly changed. Of course, the spirit snake could sense the appearance of the power of the seal. Could it be that the other party could mobilize the power of the seal? Of course, the spirit snake did not take Longao seriously. The only thing it was afraid of was the power of the seal. Because countless years ago, it was the power of the seal that forcibly sealed the Black Stone Tablet. Otherwise, it would not have to stay here and be unable to get out. For so many years, the spirit snake had been unable to break the seal. How could the power of the seal appear here? The spirit snake was very clear that once the power of the seal entered the space, it would completely destroy it. The consequences would be unimaginable. The biggest reason why it was not destroyed back then was that although the power of the seal could seal the Black Stone Tablet, it could not enter the space. Otherwise, it would not have been able to live until now. Boy, you. Waving his hand, Longao stopped the spirit snake from continuing. He sneered and said, Weren't you very arrogant just now? I want to see if you can kill me now. Hearing Longao's words, the spirit snake's face became more and more gloomy. If it was before, the spirit snake had 100% confidence that it could easily kill the other party. But now, with the appearance of the power of the seal, the spirit snake did not have the slightest confidence. Not to mention killing the other party, whether it could survive was still unknown. The spirit snake did not dare to have the slightest carelessness. It was very afraid of the power of the seal, especially since the power of the seal had already entered the space. Once it was delayed, the consequences would be unimaginable. The spirit snake was the weapon spirit of the Black Stone Tablet. Of course, it could control the power of the space. In less than a few seconds, the surrounding black air madly rushed towards the black whirlwind, which was the so-called power of the seal. It could not retreat even half a step. The spirit snake knew very well that it had to expel the power of the seal from the space as quickly as possible. Otherwise, once the space was suppressed by the power of the seal, it would be even more difficult to expel the power of the seal. Longao stood quietly in the same place. This battle seemed to have nothing to do with him. After all, the power of the seal was controlled by Xiling and Bai Ling. He had no control over it. But just now, Bai Ling had said that the power of the seal would be introduced into his body. If that was the case, killing the spirit snake would become easier. Brother Long, are you ready? Longao nodded. He was already prepared to accept the so-called power of the seal at any time. Longao was even a little impatient. If he could defeat the spirit snake this time, then after Long Ming devoured the spirit snake, Long Ming's strength would skyrocket. It would also be indescribably beneficial for his future cultivation. Because of this, even if the space of the black stone tablet was dangerous, even if there was a slim chance of survival, Longao insisted on entering. I'm ready. Longao had just finished speaking when he suddenly felt a terrifying power enter his body. There was no doubt that this was the power of the seal. Whether he could defeat the spirit snake and let Long Ming devour the spirit snake depended on whether he could integrate the power of the seal. The power of the seal was the key. No matter what happened, he had to succeed. Chapter 1365. After successfully drawing in the power of the seal, Longao felt that his body was full of energy. There was no hesitation. According to Bai Ling, he could only maintain it for 3 minutes. In other words, the power of the seal would disappear after 3 minutes. At that time, he would die if he were to face the spirit snake alone. Longao used the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique and used the power of the seal to wildly surge toward the spirit snake. The power of the seal was the spirit snake's nemesis. The result was obvious. Boy, even if I die, I won't let you have it easy. The spirit snake roared wildly with a deep sense of unwillingness. Until now, the spirit snake had never thought that it would be destroyed by a mere heavenly god human. If someone had told it before, it would not have believed it even if it was beaten to death. In less than an hour, Longao finally used the power of the seal to firmly suppress the spirit snake. Longao, let Long Ming devour the spirit snake quickly. He nodded. Longao did not hesitate at all. Of course, he knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Long Ming. As Long Ming devoured the spirit snake, Longao immediately asked, Xiling, what will happen if Long Ming devours the spirit snake? Opportunity. This was Long Ming's opportunity. Long Ming's physique is very special. Once he devours the spirit snake, I believe that Long Ming's cultivation will instantly break through to the supreme divine path. After thinking for a while, Xiling continued. If nothing goes wrong after devouring the spirit snake, Long Ming will reach the peak of the martial Tao in the future. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was overjoyed. He knew better than anyone what it meant to reach the peak of the martial Tao. According to Xiling, once Long Ming devoured the spirit snake, he would definitely reach the peak of the martial Tao in the future. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited. Longao had already guessed that Long Ming would benefit greatly from devouring the spirit snake, but he did not expect that there would be such a benefit. No matter who it was, no one would be able to resist such benefits. Longao, you can devour the aura here. According to my estimation, even if your cultivation is unable to break through to the supreme god Tao, you can at least reach the peak god emperor stage. That's enough. Longao wasn't greedy at all. Being able to break through to the peak god emperor stage was already a very good thing. But you have to know. It hadn't even been a year since he broke through from god king to god emperor. If he didn't experience it personally, would he believe it? Not to mention himself, Longao knew that no matter who it was, they would not believe it. This kind of cultivation speed and talent was unprecedented and would never be matched by anyone in the future. Longao did not waste any time and immediately began to devour the surrounding black air at an extremely fast speed. Firmament devouring art. A black vortex appeared behind Longao, and its devouring speed became faster and faster. It was just as Xiling had guessed. Long Ming devoured the snake spirit and spent a total of a month to completely refine the snake spirit. As for Longao, after devouring for a whole month, he still couldn't break through to the Supreme God Tao. He only reached the peak God Emperor stage. Even so, Longao was already very satisfied. Longao left the space of the black stone tablet. This time, Long Ming devoured the snake spirit and successfully broke through to the Supreme God Tao. This was also something that surprised Longao. In front of the black stone tablet, Longao, who had just appeared, saw that Yi Fei was still not leaving. He cursed in his heart. Yi Fei was really patient. After a whole month, he still didn't leave. It seemed that Yi Fei wanted to kill him. He wouldn't choose to give up easily. He wouldn't even care about the opportunity. Yi Fei, who was resting with his eyes closed, seemed to have sensed Longao's aura. He slowly opened his eyes and the corner of his lips curled into a cold smile. Yi Fei was confident that Longao wouldn't choose to leave easily. As expected. Longao, let me give you a piece of advice. It's best that you don't continue to waste time. Regarding Yi Fei's meaning, how could Longao not know? Sneering in his heart, Longao said indifferently, Yi Fei, do you really think that you can trap me? Ha ha ha, Longao, I'd like to see how you're going to leave under my watch today. What if I can leave? If it was in the past, Yi Fei wouldn't have much confidence. However, as he comprehended the heaven and earth, his cultivation broke through to the Nirvana realm from the Emperor God realm. Yi Fei's confidence instantly increased by 100 times. If Longao could still leave from under his nose, he could just go and die. He was full of confidence. Longao, if I can leave, I'll call you Big Brother every time I see you in the future. How about that? No problem. Not only that, you'll have to call me Big Brother every time you see me. From now on, no matter when you see me, you'll have to step aside obediently. How about that? Ha, great. Yi Fei was too confident. He didn't believe that Longao could really leave. However, in the next moment, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. Before Yi Fei could react, Longao's voice came from behind him. Yi Fei, you've already lost. I hope you'll keep your word. Ha! As the laughter gradually disappeared, Longao's figure also disappeared without a trace. Yi Fei was a little dumbfounded. Until now, he still didn't know what had happened. Yi Fei, who was originally full of confidence, was like an eggplant that was struck by lightning. He instantly withered. Longao. Things had already developed to such a state. Yi Fei didn't know what to do. This time, not only did he lose, he also lost a little helplessly. He lost miserably from the beginning to the end. He didn't even have a chance to attack. Yi Fei was almost certain that Longao's strength was definitely inferior to his. Otherwise, Longao wouldn't have escaped and would have fought him openly. So what if he had great strength? Longao's speed was too fast. Yi Fei was very depressed. He had great strength, but it was useless. Speed martial skills. Yi Fei was very clear that if he wanted to successfully kill Longao, there was only one way. Other than having great strength, he also had to have great speed martial skills. With these two combined, he believed that killing Longao would be incomparably easy. Speed martial skills. Wanting to obtain a speed martial skill was easier said than done. In the Tianwu continent, among all the martial skills, the hardest to obtain were space martial skills. Next were speed martial skills. Next, Yi Fei left and prepared to continue looking for opportunities. He hoped that when he broke through to one with the world, he would also be able to obtain a speed martial skill. Just as Yi Fei left, Longao's figure appeared. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longao smiled. Just as Yi Fei had guessed, if Longao didn't think that he was strong enough, would Yi Fei still be alive? There are still 10 months. It seems that I still have many things to do. Longao also gradually disappeared. Chapter 1366. Ancient battlefield. Each time the ancient battlefield opened up, it would take a year for it to close. In other words, no matter who it was that entered the ancient battlefield, they would not be able to leave within a year. This included Tong Zun and Long Tian as well. If they wanted to leave the ancient battlefield, they would have to wait for a year. Longao calculated the time. He had been in the ancient battlefield for a full 2 months now. In other words, if he wanted to leave the primordial battlefield, he would have to wait at least another 8 months before he could successfully leave. Longao did not waste any time. Now that he was in the ancient forbidden ground, he could find opportunities everywhere. As long as he was lucky enough, he might be able to break through from the Supreme Tao state to the Supreme Tao state before he left the ancient battlefield. The ancient forbidden ground was filled with dangers. If he were to enter at any other time, he would most likely die. But right now, it was just as the oracle had predicted. The ancient forbidden ground was at its weakest right now. That was indeed the case. Longao wanted to make use of this opportunity to obtain his own opportunities as well. Long Ming had already devoured the snake spirit. However, it was not an easy task for him to refine it completely. Even though he had broken through to the Supreme Tao state, he was still not at the pinnacle. According to Xiling, if Long Ming could refine and fuse with the snake spirit completely, he would at least be able to break through to the Nirvana rebirth state and reach the so-called pinnacle state of the martial arts. Within the ancient forbidden ground, within a gigantic cave. Wahahaha! Wahahaha! Ha! We've finally found it! After tens of thousands of years, we've finally obtained the power of Source! Ha! A series of maniacal laughter rang out from within the cave. Long Tian and Tong Zun were laughing maniacally. Their faces were filled with excitement and surprise. Both of them had not expected that they would really find the power of Source after entering the ancient forbidden ground. Different identities and different strengths meant that the opportunities one wanted to obtain were also different. The fortunate encounters Yi Fei and the others wanted were nothing more than to have a breakthrough in their cultivation, to acquire powerful martial skills and powerful treasures. As for Long Tian and Tong Zun, none of that mattered to them. Even if it was a super legendary weapon. To both of them, there was only one thing that mattered the most, the so-called power of Source. Nirvana state martial artists could only reach the pinnacle state of the martial arts by refining and fusing with the power of Source. 5 stages of Nirvana. Nirvana realm martial artists, no matter what realm they were at, would have the opportunity to reach the peak of martial arts after obtaining the power of origin. It was a matter of speed. For example, if a Nirvana realm martial artist who comprehended heaven and earth and obtained the power of origin needed 100 years to reach the peak of martial arts, then a Nirvana rebirth martial artist who obtained the power of origin only needed 20 years to reach the peak of martial arts. This was the difference between them. Therefore, no matter what level of rebirth realm martial artist it was, all of them extremely desired to obtain quintessence energy. Both Long Tian and Tong Zun had successfully broken through the last stage of the Nirvana realm, which was the peak of the Nirvana realm. Once the two of them obtained the power of the Source, their chances of reaching the pinnacle of martial arts were very high, and the time taken would be very short. Long Tian and Tong Zun looked at each other and saw the joy and excitement in each other's eyes. Brother Long, thank you very much. If it wasn't for you, I believe we wouldn't be able to obtain the power of the Source in our lifetime. Now that we have successfully obtained the power of the Source, I believe that in less than 10 years, we will be able to refine the power of the Source and break through the pinnacle of martial arts. Nodding his head, Long Tian couldn't help but be surprised and said excitedly, Our risk this time is worth it. Just like what you said, you and I will definitely be able to break through the pinnacle of martial arts within 10 years. However, Brother Tong, even if the Heavenly Tao isn't here, I believe the Heavenly Tao will return. Even if you and I can break through the pinnacle of martial arts, we might not be a match for the Heavenly Tao. Hearing this, Tong Zun, who was extremely excited just now, became a little solemn. Tong Zun knew very well that the heavenly Tao was extremely powerful and had broken through the pinnacle of martial arts for many years. It wasn't something that the two of them who had just broken through the pinnacle of martial arts could compare with. Without waiting for Tong Zun to speak, Long Tian continued. You and I both know that it's not an easy task to refine and integrate the power of the source. Once this matter is leaked out, not only the heavenly Tao, I believe the other Nirvana realm martial artists will think of various ways to deal with us. We are in a very dangerous situation. There was surprise and solemnity. While obtaining the power of the source, the two of them were very worried that this matter would be leaked out. By then, whether it was the other Nirvana realm martial artists or the heavenly Tao, they would be greatly affected. Brother Long, only you and I know about this. After 10 months, you and I will leave the primordial battlefield and return to our respective sects to cultivate in seclusion. As long as we don't leak this matter, who will know about it? Not to mention the heavenly Tao and the others, even the clairvoyant might not know about it. Therefore, we don't have to worry unnecessarily. Within 10 years, you and I will definitely break through the pinnacle of martial arts. How could Long Tian not know what Tong Zun meant? It was better to be safe than sorry. What if this matter was leaked out? He sighed deeply in his heart. Long Tian didn't continue to worry unnecessarily. After all, what Tong Zun said was right. This matter was very secretive. As long as the two of them didn't leak it out, it would be difficult for outsiders to know about it. The clairvoyant. The only person they were worried about now was the clairvoyant. After all, the clairvoyant's art of divination was unparalleled in the world. The two of them didn't know if the clairvoyant could calculate it. If the clairvoyant really could calculate it, what if the clairvoyant wanted to deal with them? With the clairvoyant's strength, even the heavenly Tao wouldn't dare to provoke the clairvoyant casually. There's no what if. Brother Tong, you and I have successfully obtained the origin energy. I believe that within 10 years, we will definitely break through the pinnacle of martial arts. However, just in case, you and I will work together in the future. I don't believe that with our strength, we won't be a match for the heavenly Tao. Now that things had come to this, how could Tong Zun not agree? He nodded. Tong Zun smiled and said, No problem. With the two of us working together, I believe that even the heavenly Tao wouldn't dare to act recklessly. If that's the case, you and I can completely change the situation of the mainland. By then, the Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance will split the world. Long Tian smiled as well. Long Tian and Tong Zun had different thoughts. Because once his cultivation reached the pinnacle of martial arts, he wouldn't have to worry about the heavenly Tao coming to find trouble with him. The two of them looked at the flowing origin energy in front of them. In the next second, their bodies moved at the same time. Chapter 1367. No one knew that Long Tian and Tong Zun had obtained the origin energy, including Longao. In the ancient Forbidden Grounds, Longao followed Xilinx's instructions and continued to search for opportunities. However, every time, his luck was just a little bit worse, and he missed out on the opportunity. He did not give up. Longao knew that there were still 9 months before the ancient battlefield reopened. There was more than enough time. During this period, Longao kept encountering disciples from the 10 sects. Under such circumstances, he did not show any mercy. It could be said that he killed everyone he saw. Being merciful to one's enemies was the greatest cruelty to oneself. Among the 10 sects, the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family had a grudge against him. If these people left, they would definitely become the sect's greatest enemy in the future. That was exactly why. In order to eliminate the root of the problem and prevent future troubles, Longao did not let any of his enemies go. The Long family's longbow was successfully killed. As for the Martial Artists Alliance, he could not let Yifei go. Longao continued to search for opportunities while killing the disciples from the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. As for Yifei, Longao was well aware of his strength and the gap between them. If he fought Yifei head-on, he would only be asking for trouble. Revenge was a dish best served cold. 9 months passed in the blink of an eye. A year's time was almost the time it took to eat a meal for those who entered the ancient battlefield. When the ancient battlefield reopened, Longao and the rest left successfully. There were more than 10,000 people who had entered the primordial battlefield previously, but after a year, less than 1/10,000 of them had made it out alive. That's right. Among the 10,000 people, other than Longao and Yifei, none of them made it out alive. What was going on? No one knew about this. 10 exits. None of the 10 sects would tell the public that all of their people who entered the ancient battlefield had been wiped out. This kind of thing was very embarrassing. It was because of this reason that the 10-directional cauldron thought that they were unlucky. The 1,000 people who entered all died in the primordial battlefield. At this point, the primordial battlefield became a great secret. Long Tian and Tong Zun had also left the primordial battlefield. As for the tens of thousands of people, it was because the two of them had killed them. Not a single one was left. The reason why the two of them did this was very simple. It was to silence them. The fact that the two of them had entered the primordial battlefield could not be leaked. Otherwise, the two of them would be in endless trouble. The two of them didn't kill Yifei because of Tong Zun. Otherwise, Long Tian wouldn't have let Yifei go. Even so, as a precaution, the two of them chose to brainwash Yifei. In other words, from now on, Yifei would know nothing about entering the ancient battlefield and would not reveal anything about it. Brainwashing would be a huge hindrance to Yifei's future cultivation. However, the two of them couldn't care less about that. In order to keep this secret, not killing Yifei was already very good of them. Sword Sect. Seeing that Longao had successfully come out of the primordial battlefield, Murong Guina and Tong Zun were overjoyed. However, their faces turned extremely gloomy in the next moment. There were thousands of people in the Sword Sect and not a single one of them had come out alive. What exactly had happened? But one had to know. The thousands of people who had entered the primordial battlefield this time were the most outstanding and talented people in the Sword Sect. The Sword Sect couldn't afford to lose even 1/10 of them, let alone all of them. Murong Guinao couldn't wait and asked anxiously, Longao, what exactly happened? Where are the people in the Sword Sect? Why didn't a single one of them come out? 2 hours. The primordial battlefield would only open for 2 hours. According to the previous situation, out of 10 people in the Sword Sect, 3 or 4 of them would come out. But now, Longao obviously didn't know what had happened. Although the primordial forbidden ground was full of danger, he wouldn't believe that no one had come out alive. Could it be because of Tong Zun and Long Tian? Longao had a guess. Long Tian and Tong Zun had killed everyone in order to keep this a secret. After all, with their strength, it was easy for them to kill more than 5,000 people. Was it really the two of them? Longao, what exactly happened? Seeing that Longao was silent, Murong Guina and Tong Zun were even more certain that Longao knew what had happened. Senior Tong Zun, Murong Master, I don't know why the people in the Sword Sect didn't come out. Subsequently, Longao roughly recounted the matter of him and his group entering the ancient forbidden grounds. Long Tian and Tong Zun also entered the primordial forbidden ground. As for whether it was them, I don't know. Longao's words were vague, but Murong Guina and Tong Zun weren't fools. Of course, they understood what Longao meant. Could it really be Long Tian and Tong Zun? Hearing Longao's words, both Murong Guina and Tong Zun were shocked. This was because everyone knew that Nirvana Realm martial artists couldn't enter the primordial forbidden ground. Otherwise, no Nirvana Realm martial artist would have entered the primordial battlefield after it had opened so many times. In that case, the two of them couldn't figure out how Tong Zun and Long Tian did it. Longao, do you know how Long Tian and Tong Zun did it? Longao knew what Tong Zun meant. After thinking about it, he said, According to my guess, the two of them must have forcefully suppressed their strength to enter the primordial forbidden ground. As for why, I believe you know better than me. I don't know if the two of them have obtained the primordial forbidden ground. However, the two of them must have killed everyone to silence them. Old ancestor, why don't we join forces with the other sects to suppress the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family? We can ask Long Tian and Tong Zun why they did it. Murongui was furious. It was fine that the two of them entered the primordial battlefield, but why did they have to silence them? Thousands of people were the foundation of the Sword Sect. If one of them died, there would be one less person left. Muronguinao's heart was filled with endless anger. He wanted to immediately attack the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family and tear Long Tian and Tong Zun into pieces. However, Tong Zun shook his head and said with a serious face, "This is a little troublesome. Long Tian and Tong Zun will definitely not admit it. Before we have concrete evidence, the other sects will definitely not join forces with us." Tong Zun also had his own concerns. If it was someone else who said it, perhaps some people would believe it. However, Longao was the only one who didn't. Everyone knew that Longao had a grudge against the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Everyone would think that Longao did it on purpose to kill with a borrowed knife. Chapter 1368. If Longao was the only one who said that, it would be useless. Until now. Jian Tian and Muronguina sighed. The two of them did not know how Long Tian and Tong Zun entered the primordial battlefield. Even though they knew that the two of them had suppressed their strength, knowing was one thing, and being able to do it was another. Suppressing one's strength. Countless people had thought of this method, but how many of them could do it? Why did Long Tian and Tong Zun enter the primordial battlefield? Others might not know, but how could Muronguina and Jian Tian not know? They would never believe that the two of them were doing it for treasures, martial skills, and cultivation techniques. Both Long Tian and Tong Zun had reached the peak of the Nirvana realm. They were only one step away from breaking through to the peak of the martial arts path. Murongguan and Jian Tian were almost certain that the main reason why the two of them suppressed their strength and took the risk to enter the primordial battlefield was because they wanted to obtain the so-called origin source energy in the primordial battlefield. The thing that Nirvana realm martial artists wanted the most was the origin energy. But all the core energy of the martial heaven continent had been sealed by the heavenly Das. It was practically impossible for them to obtain any of it. Even Muronguina and Jian Tian wanted to obtain the origin energy. If they could obtain the origin energy by entering the primordial battlefield, the two of them would definitely enter without hesitation. Temptation. That was the temptation of the origin energy. Muronguina and Jian Tian's faces were extremely gloomy. Losing over 1,000 disciples in an instant was undoubtedly the greatest blow to the Sword Sect. If they had known earlier, they would definitely have chosen to give up this opportunity. In the main hall of the Sword Sect. Longao, if what you said is true, it seems that not only the disciples of the Sword Sect, but all the disciples of the other sects, including the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, have all died. Nodding his head. Although it was a little funny, Longao was almost certain that everyone in the 10-direction tripod had been killed by Long Tian and Tong Zun. Not a single one was left. Silencing them. I have a guess about the two of them, but I don't know if I should say it. Please speak. Muronguina and Jian Tian were very curious. They did not know what Longao had guessed. The two of you, Long Tian and Tong Zun, aren't fools. They know that even if they kill everyone, as long as I leave the primordial battlefield alive, the news of them entering the primordial battlefield will still be leaked. Long Tian and Tong Zun nodded in agreement. Longao, even so, what can we do? Guessing. According to my guess, there is only one reason why the two of them killed everyone to silence the witnesses. That is, they obtained what they wanted. Origin energy? Muronguina and Jian Tian looked at each other. They were not fools. Of course, they knew what Longao meant. Longao, we already know what you mean. I believe your guess. Jian Tian's heart was heavy. He knew what it meant for Long Tian and Tong Zun to obtain the origin energy. Longao, you have just left the primordial battlefield. You should rest well. All right. Of course, Longao knew what Jian Tian wanted to do. If his guess was right, Long Tian and Tong Zun would be able to break through to the peak of the martial Tao once they refined and merged with the origin energy. Once the two of them reached the peak of the martial Tao, there would be no 10-direction tripod in Tianwu continent. Instead, it would be the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. How could Jian Tian and the rest resist the experts at the peak of the martial Tao? Just as Longao had guessed, Jian Tian panicked when he heard that Long Tian and Tong Zun had successfully obtained the origin energy. He was very fearful. Old ancestor, what should we do now? Murong Guina knew how serious the matter was. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Long Tian and Tong Zun really obtained the origin energy, the consequences would be unimaginable. Murong Guina was almost certain that once Long Tian and Tong Zun's cultivation reached the peak of the martial Tao, the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family would definitely destroy the other 8 forces. Then they would be able to rule the world. This is just Longao's guess. No one knows the truth. What did the old ancestor mean? Hearing the old ancestor's words, Murong Guina was curious. Did the old ancestor not believe in Longao? You and I know the grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. We can't rule out the possibility that Longao wants to use us to deal with Long Tian and Tong Zun in order to frame the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. It made sense. Murong Guina knew that the old ancestor's analysis was reasonable. After all, it was not impossible for Longao to frame the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family in order to deal with them. Moreover, it's also unknown whether Tong Zun and Long Tian have entered the primordial battlefield. In the end, Jian Tian did not believe Longao at all. If it was anything else, Jian Tian wouldn't have any doubts. After all, no Nirvana realm warrior, including Long Tian and Tong Zun, had been able to enter the primordial battlefield every time it opened. If the two of them could suppress their strength and enter the primordial battlefield, why didn't they enter before? After all, the two of them had countless chances, but they chose to enter the primordial battlefield this time. Moreover, Longao also entered the primordial battlefield. Because of this, Jian Tian only believed 1/10 of what Longao had said, including his guess. Otherwise, Jian Tian would have gone to verify it a long time ago. He wouldn't have sat there obediently. Old ancestor, since we don't believe Longao, should we pretend that this did not happen? Humph! Jian Tian snorted loudly and said in an extremely cold voice. We have lost more than 1,000 disciples this time. If we don't get to the bottom of this matter, how can we face the sect? As the sword sect master, Murong Guina felt an unquenchable anger at the thought of the sect losing more than 1,000 disciples. If he knew who had killed more than 1,000 disciples, he believed that even if it was God, Murong Guina, he would not let that person off. I will make a trip down personally later. No matter what, I believe that there will be a result soon. No one knew whether Longao was telling the truth or not. Old ancestor, if this was really done by Longao, how should we deal with it? Kill. Jian Tian said coldly without even thinking about it. In Jian Tian's opinion, if Longao killed Gu Zun in order to frame the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, then Longao would no longer be his friend, but his enemy. There was only one way to deal with an enemy, and that was to kill. Chapter 1369. In the Sword Sect. It was a secluded courtyard with an elegant environment. In the courtyard, Murong Yena was pleasantly surprised to hear that Longao had returned safely. The two of them chatted for a few hours before Murong Yena stood up and left. How could Longao not know about Murong Yena's feelings? But could he accept it? Yuan, Bai Ling, and Ao Xue already had 3 confidants. Longao did not want to cause any more trouble. From the beginning to the end, Longao had only treated Murong Yener as his biological sister. For his sister, Murong Yener, he was willing to risk his life, but not his feelings. The two of them were well aware of the outcome. Murong Yener was very sad. However, in order to not force Longao away, she could only bury her feelings. Brother Long, Sister Yener seems to like you a lot. Silly girl. Longao smiled helplessly and said bitterly, when it comes to feelings, it's all about mutual consent. I have the 3 of you. Bai Ling, of course, did not want Longao to continue looking for confidants. She smiled and did not say anything. Brother Long, Jian Tian and Murong Guina don't seem to believe you. Longao nodded. Regarding Bai Ling's meaning, how could Longao not know? Even he would not believe it, let alone Jian Tian and Murong Guina. Putting aside whether the 2 of them had obtained the origin energy, no one would believe that the 2 of them had entered the primordial battlefield, including Jian Tian and Murong Guina. Everyone knew that the primordial battlefield had opened countless times over the years, but no Nirvana realm martial artist had ever entered. If Long Tian and Tong Zun could enter, why would they wait until now? Xiling and Bai Ling appeared at the same time. Longao, if I'm not wrong, not only will Jian Tian and Murong Guina not believe you, they might even think that you're trying to frame them. Regarding this point that Xiling said, Longao really had not thought about it before. Now that he thought about it, that was indeed the case. If he were in their shoes, he would also think the same. After all, he had a grudge with the Martial Artists Alliance and his Long family. It would be strange if Jian Tian and Murong Guina chose to believe him. Longao, you better be careful. You can never judge a book by its cover. If Long Tian and Tong Zun attack you, you'll be in big trouble. Longao's eyes gradually focused. Apart from himself, no one else knew that Long Tian and Tong Zun had entered the primordial battlefield. In other words, no one could prove that Long Tian and Tong Zun had entered the primordial battlefield. Xiling's words made Longao speculate. If someone else had said that, Jian Tian and the others might have believed him. However, Jian Tian, who had believed him, might not believe him. It seems like I'll have to leave the sword sect. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Jian Tian didn't believe him and he stayed in the sword sect, wouldn't he be in big trouble? Longao, if you choose to leave at this time, Jian Tian will think that there's something wrong with you. Longao seemed to be in a mess. Normally, he wouldn't be so impulsive. Longao, let's wait and see. If I'm not wrong, Jian Tian should have left the sword sect. I believe we'll know the result in less than 3 days. Longao nodded. He knew that he was a little impulsive this time. Just like what Xiling had said, if he chose to leave at this time, Jian Tian and Murong Guina would definitely think that he was trying to frame them. If that was really the case, wouldn't Long Tian and Tong Zun benefit from it? The primordial battlefield wasn't a secret to the Sky Martial Continent. However, only the top 10 sects could enter the primordial battlefield. Although the outsiders weren't convinced, they didn't dare to say anything. After all, there were only 10 entrances to the primordial battlefield. They were from the Long family, Alchemy Guild, Martial Artists Alliance, Wanshou Sect, Heaven and Earth Sect, 5 Elements Sect, Wanzhan School, Sword Sect, Purple Thunder Sect, and Black Heaven Sect. The other sects didn't have an 11th entrance. Even if others wanted to enter, they wouldn't be able to. As for what Longao said, Jian Tian didn't leak it out. He knew that it could be a big or small matter. Tong Zun and Long Tian had successfully killed everyone except for Longao. The two of them were extremely depressed because Longao's departure could possibly reveal their secret. However, after thinking about it, they weren't too worried. After all, they had a grudge against each other. If it was just Longao who said it, not many people would believe it. Nirvana Realm martial artists couldn't enter the primordial battlefield. It was an unchanging rule. Who would believe that 2 Nirvana Realm martial artists had entered the primordial battlefield? That was the reason. Long Tian and Tong Zun had just left the primordial battlefield. After returning to their sects, they immediately went into seclusion. After successfully obtaining the origin energy, the next thing to do was to think of a way to refine and integrate the origin energy as fast as possible. Only then could they break through to the peak of the martial Tao. The peak of the martial Tao was to look down on the world. As long as they didn't break through to the peak of the martial Tao, the two of them wouldn't be at peace. Outer Sea. In the Crystal Palace. The marvelous mathematician sat alone in the Crystal Palace with an indifferent expression. Within 3 years, Tong Zun and Long Tian should be able to break through to the peak of the martial Tao. As for Longao, the marvelous mathematician felt helpless when he thought of Longao. He could calculate everyone's fate except for Longao's. At this moment, the marvelous mathematician regretted choosing Longao. Although Longao was talented and had great potential, his strength was too low. God knew how long it would take for him to break through to the peak of the martial Tao. Long Tian and Tong Zun only took 3 years to break through to the peak of the martial Tao. Comparing the two, no matter who it was, they would choose Long Tian and Tong Zun over Longao. 3 years. Longao, I'll give you 3 years. If you can't break through to the Nirvana realm in 3 years, I will choose to give up on you. I hope you won't blame me for this. If Longao, Long Tian, and Tong Zun were here, they would be shocked to hear the marvelous mathematician's words. Because the 3 of them were the marvelous mathematician's chess pieces, and the marvelous mathematician was the one who controlled the chess pieces. 3 years. Longao wanted to break through from the peak of Heavenly God realm to the Nirvana realm. It was simply a fool's dream. Not to mention breaking through from the Heavenly God realm to the Nirvana realm. Even if he wanted to break through from the peak of Heavenly God realm to the Nirvana realm, he might not be able to do it in a short 3 years. For example, Yifei had spent more than 10 years since he was half a step into the Nirvana realm. It was easy to imagine how difficult it was to break through to the Nirvana realm from the Heavenly God realm. Chapter 1370. A Chess Piece. Longao had always had a feeling that he seemed to have always been a chess piece. It was as if there was a hand in the unseen world that was gripping everything tightly. Longao had been staying in the Sword Sect. Apart from cultivating every day, he would visit the Sword Sect. On this day, after Longao finished cultivating, he stood up and stretched his body. He pushed open the door and walked out. Everyone in the Sword Sect knew about Longao. Outsiders might not know, but the disciples of the Sword Sect definitely knew about him. This time, more than 1,000 people had entered the ancient battlefield, but all of them had been wiped out. None of them had been able to leave the ancient battlefield alive. This matter had caused a sensation in the Sword Sect. Even if Jian Tian and Murongguina wanted to hide this matter, it was absolutely impossible. Longao had also entered the ancient battlefield, but he was the only one who had come out alive. Longao was probably the only one who knew about the ancient battlefield. Lu Chongxing? Looking at Lu Chongxing, who was teaching the disciples of the Sword Sect a lesson not far away, Longao laughed. Previously, Lu Chongxing had been provoking Longao. After being defeated by Longao, Lu Chongxing had become much more well-behaved. In fact, Lu Chongxing had already seen Longao, but he had pretended not to see him. Until now, Lu Chongxing was still a little unable to accept the fact that he had been defeated by Longao. As the Sword Sect's law enforcement elder and a martial artist at the peak of the Heaven God realm, from the beginning to the end, Lu Chongxing had never taken Longao seriously. This was also the true reason why Lu Chongxing had been unable to accept it. Learning from his mistakes, Lu Chongxing did not dare to continue provoking Longao. Lu Chongxing, we haven't seen each other for a year. How have you been? Hearing Longao take the initiative to talk to him, Lu Chongxing's heart sank. He was very surprised. Longao's character had always been that if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people wanted to offend him, he would offend them. It was precisely because of this that under normal circumstances, Longao rarely took the initiative to provoke others, even if it was his own enemy. This time. Longao, what do you want? Lu Changxing looked gravely at Longao, who was in front of him, and felt very fearful. The surrounding disciples of the sword sect stayed far, far away. One was the disciplinary elder of the sword sect, while the other was a fearless lunatic. Once the two started fighting, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Changxing, you've always disliked me? Although Lu did not speak, his face was AO. Lu Changxing, Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing, since there's a chance today, why don't we settle our previous scores? I'll give you a chance. As long as you win, I'll cut my own throat here. The more confident Longao appeared, the more uncertain Lu Changxing felt. Thousands of people had entered the ancient battlefield, but Longao was the only one who came out alive. This in itself spoke volumes. His strength was unfathomable. Lu Changxing's expression changed again and again because he could no longer see through Longao's true strength. Could it be that Longao had entered the ancient battlefield, obtained an opportunity, and improved his strength? Previously, he had already lost to Longao, let alone now. He kept retreating. Lu Changxing's expression turned increasingly ugly and gloomy. He knew very well that if he fled without a fight, he would be utterly humiliated, even more than before. If he didn't flee, even if Longao killed him, he believed that the old ancestor and the master would not seek justice for him. As the sword sect's disciplinary elder, Lu Changxing knew many things, including the fact that the old ancestor valued Longao. Otherwise, the old ancestor would not have allowed Longao to enter the ancient battlefield a year ago. Longao, don't push me too far. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lu Changxing did not want to fight. If he lost or died, it would be too late for regrets. Ha! Longao laughed. Lu Changxing's expression turned even gloomier. This world was like this. If you were strong, you could do whatever you wanted. If you were weak, you could only passively take a beating. This was the rule of the Tianwu continent. When he entered the Tianwu continent, he was weak. No matter who saw him, they all wanted to bully him. What was the reason? Wasn't it because he was weak? Lu Changxing, one move is the limit. If I can't defeat you, I will immediately cut my own throat. One move? Lu Changxing, who had been considering whether or not to leave, was stunned when he heard Longao's words. The surrounding sword sect disciples were also stunned. No one had expected Longao to say such a thing. One move? Was Longao really that confident? It wasn't just Lu Changxing who didn't believe it. Even the people around them didn't believe it. As a peak heavenly god, Lu Changxing was extremely confident. If he couldn't even block one move from his opponent, then there was no point in living. Alright, Longao, I hope you won't regret this. Lu Changxing knew that if he chose to flee, it would be very difficult for him to continue living in the sword sect. Even if Longao could defeat him, he wouldn't be able to defeat him in one move. Unless Longao's cultivation base had already broken through to the supreme divine realm. But was that even possible? A year ago, Longao really had been a deity. No matter how fast his cultivation speed had been, at most, he would have just broken through to the earth god realm. If he could break through to the supreme divine realm, that would be impossible unless Longao wasn't human. Taking a step back, even if Longao's cultivation had already broken through to the celestial god realm, Lu Changxing also had full confidence. Not to mention one move, even if it was 10 moves, the other party might not be able to defeat him. One move was the limit. If he could withstand it, Longao would commit suicide here. In front of so many people, Longao might not be so shameless. Thinking of this, Lu Changxing's confidence instantly exploded. Everyone was looking forward to it. Although they didn't believe it, the legend of Longao had failed. If a lunatic who had continuously caused havoc in the Martial Artists Alliance could really defeat the law enforcement elder in one move, then there would be a good show to watch. Master. Disciple greets the master. Right at this moment, Murongwena suddenly appeared. Whether it was Longao or Lu Changxing, they all bowed respectfully. The two of them said in unison, "Greetings to the master." Nodding, Murongwena said indifferently, "I already know about your situation. One move is the limit. If Longao loses, he will commit suicide here. If he wins, what do you think?" Everyone looked at the master. They wanted to know what the master would do. No matter what, Longao was still an outsider, while Lu Changxing was the law enforcement elder of the sword sect. Their statuses were completely different. If Longao can defeat Lu Changxing in one move, then from then on, Lu Changxing will no longer be the law enforcement elder of the sword sect. He will reflect on his mistakes for 3 years. F***ck hearing the master's words, everyone was shocked. If the master did this, wouldn't it mean that the master was biased towards Longao? If it was really a person, it would probably cause objections. However, since the master had already made his decision, no one dared to say anything. Chapter 1371. Lu Changxing was also a little surprised. Could it be that the master was going to give up on him for Longao? If that was the case, he would be in for a tragedy. Lu Changxing never expected that the master would be so biased towards Longao. Otherwise, he would never have provoked Longao. He had miscalculated. It was too late for regrets. Lu Changxing knew very well that there was only one thing he could do now, and that was to block Longao's move. He did not care about Longao's life or death at all. It would be best if Longao killed himself here. Looking at Lu Changxing's expression, Longao already knew what Lu Changxing was thinking. "You want to kill me? Begin." Looking at Longao in front of him, Murongwena also wanted to see how strong Longao was now. There were endless opportunities in the ancient battlefield. Longao had been in the ancient battlefield for a year, and had successfully left the ancient battlefield. He would never believe that Longao did not obtain any fortuitous encounters. He wanted to see what kind of fortuitous encounter Longao had obtained. Others might not believe in Longao, but Murongwena was 100% convinced. The reason was simple. Murongwena knew Longao's character well. Longao would not be so arrogant without full confidence. In other words, since Longao dared to limit himself to one move, he believed that Longao could really defeat Lu Changxing in one move. One move. In the eyes of outsiders, Lu Changxing was definitely more important than Longao. No matter what, Lu Changxing was still the sword sect's law-enforcing elder, while Longao was just an outsider. In Murongwena's opinion, Longao was more important than Lu Changxing. For Longao did not hesitate to fall out with Tong Zun. One could imagine how important Longao was to the sword sect. Unfortunately, Lu Changxing and the others did not know this. "Longao, make your move!" Even so, Lu Changxing was still very confident. Until now, he still did not believe that Longao could defeat him in one move. Was that possible? The two of them looked at each other. In the next second, a terrifying divine domain erupted from both of their bodies at the same time. Regardless of whether it was Longao or Lu Changxing, the divine domain that erupted was the divine domain of a heavenly deity. Divine domain? Feeling the divine domain that erupted from Longao, everyone was shocked, including Murongwena and Lu Changxing. Just as I expected. Murongwena was very surprised, but it was within his expectations. Because Longao had entered the ancient battlefield, with Longao's talent and potential, it was not impossible for him to break through to the divine domain within a year. "So what if you're a divine domain?" Lu Changxing suddenly laughed crazily. Heavenly deity, he was also a heavenly deity. Even now, Lu Changxing still couldn't believe it. The other party was a heavenly deity. He was also a heavenly deity. Could it be that Longao could really defeat him in one move? Moreover, he was also a divine domain martial artist. But in the next moment, Lu Changxing's expression finally changed. Because the divine domain released by Longao was too strange and powerful. The divine domain he released did not even have the power to resist, and was directly swallowed by his opponent's divine domain. Time stop. Longao was very confident in his own strength. Among martial artists of the same level, no one was his match. It was more than enough to kill a divine domain martial artist. Dragon. Before Lu Changxing could finish his words, Longao's body had already disappeared. Time Shirkill Technique. Longao used the Black Divine Domain and Time Shirkill Technique, leaving Lu Changxing with no chance to fight back. From the beginning to the end, Lu Changxing did not even have the chance to fight back. What a powerful martial technique! Seeing that Longao could lock onto Lu Changxing and even change the flow of time, Murongguina was a little stunned. Because he did not know what attribute Longao's martial technique was. Could it be that this martial technique came from the ancient battlefield? In the next second, Longao's figure appeared in front of Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing was already defeated in half a move. Within one move, Longao killed Lu Changxing. It was almost a matter of minutes. No matter who it was, they had already seen this situation. Those who want to kill will be killed. Longao did not hold back at all. Because mercy to the enemy was the greatest cruelty to oneself. As long as Lu Changxing did not die, he would always be a danger to himself. Who knew if Lu Changxing would deal with him in the future? It was precisely because of this that Longao was prepared to eliminate the root of the problem. Kill. Longao used his finger as a sword and prepared to kill Lu Changxing with sword chi. Both sides were at the same level. Lu Changxing had no chance of escaping. In other words, in this situation, Lu Changxing would undoubtedly die. But what was the result? Longao, give me some face! Murongguina released the aura of heaven and earth and fiercely suppressed it. If he resisted forcefully, Longao also had the aura of heaven and earth. Even if Murongguina intervened, he could still kill Lu Changxing. However, Longao did not do so. It was still the same words. This was the sword sect, Murongguina's territory. If he completely fell out with Murongguina, it would be very disadvantageous for him. Moreover, was it worth it to fall out with Murongguina for Lu Changxing? Longao did not continue to attack. He coldly looked at Lu Changxing in front of him and said with a smile, "You've lost. But remember, from now on, you'd better not provoke me. Otherwise, I will make you regret being born into this world." Longao had a feeling that if he let Lu Changxing go this time, there would be great trouble in the future. However, Murongguina had already spoken. He could not offend Murongguina. Until now, Lu Changxing was somewhat dumbfounded. From beginning to end, he had not had any chance to fight back. Longao's strength was too strong. At the same level, in front of Longao, he was like a child standing in front of a big man. He had no power to resist. Longao, you win? Even if there were 10,000 unwillingness to admit defeat in his heart, a loss was a loss. Lu Changxing was very clear in his heart that he was able to keep his life. It was all because of the sovereign. In other words, if it wasn't for the sovereign's words to stop Longao, he believed that he would have died at this moment. Just thinking about it made him feel scared. Even so, Lu Changxing was still very unconvinced. However, now was not the time for revenge. As the saying goes, it is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Lu Changxing, since you've already lost, do as I said. You may leave. Since things had already reached this point, Lu Changxing did not dare to stay any longer. After thanking Murongguina, he immediately turned around and slowly left. In a short while, Lu Changxing's figure had disappeared without a trace. Longao, are you willing to take over Lu Changxing's position and become the sword sect's law enforcement elder? Chapter 1372. The Law Enforcement Elder? Hearing the master's decision, everyone was dumbfounded. The master's intention was clear. He wanted to rope in Longao. If someone else became the law enforcement elder, some people might not be convinced. But Longao, no one was unconvinced. Longao's strength was obvious. He had caused trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance twice, returned from the ancient battlefield, and defeated Lu Chongxing with one move. All these showed that Longao was extraordinary. Talents were a scarce resource no matter where they went. He would definitely agree. Everyone could assert that in the face of such a temptation, unless Longao's brain was flooded with water, he would not refuse. The Sword Sect was one of the top 10 sections. The law enforcement elder of the Sword Sect was a very high position in the Sword Sect. It was impossible for ordinary people to get it. Would Longao agree? Master, please forgive me. I can't agree. Longao refused? Was this for real? Seeing that Longao refused the master without even thinking, everyone was a little dumbfounded. They did not know what Longao was thinking. It was such a rare opportunity. How could he refuse it? He must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. The law enforcement elder of the Sword Sect was a position that countless people dreamed of. There was no surprise. Murunguina seemed to have guessed that Longao would refuse. Otherwise, if Longao really agreed, he would not be Longao. Murong Master, I still have something important to do, so I'll take my leave. 4 days had passed. He had waited. Longao knew very well that even if he left now, Jian Tian and Murunguina would not suspect him. Taking a step back. Even if Jian Tian and Murunguina suspected him, there was nothing he could do. He could not stay in the Sword Sect forever. After all, there were many things waiting for him. He nodded. Murunguina did not continue to urge Longao to stay. After a few simple polite words, Longao stood up and left. An hour later. In the main hall of the Sword Sect. Ancestor, how's the investigation going? At this moment, Jian Tian's face was extremely solemn and gloomy. It was as ugly as it could get. It was as if he owed someone $10 million. I'm not sure about what Longao said, but when I went to the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, I found that Tong Zun and Long Tian were both in seclusion. At this point, Jian Tian didn't continue. Murunguina was not a fool. He already knew what the old ancestor meant. Could it be that Long Tian and Tong Zun had really obtained the origin energy? Otherwise, why would the two of them choose to cultivate in seclusion at this time? There was something fishy about this. Before Murunguina could finish, Jian Tian continued. What Longao said should be 80% true. If that's the case, we're in big trouble. Murunguina's face turned solemn. He certainly knew that if Long Tian and Tong Zun had really obtained the origin energy and reached the peak of the martial arts realm, who would be their match? After leaving the Sword Sect, Longao did not return to the Dragon Valley in the Jiuzhou continent. Regardless of whether the Sword Sect and Murunguina believed him or not, Longao was almost certain that Long Tian and Tong Zun had obtained the origin energy. If this was true, he would be in big trouble. Longao was very clear. According to the grudges between him, Long Tian and Tong Zun, once they reached the peak of the martial arts realm, the first person they would deal with would be him. The Massacre Abyss. The 5 abyssal lords of the Massacre Abyss were Hong Ling Tong in the east, Yang Ling in the south, Luo Qingfeng in the west, Guoli in the north, and Yi Qin in the middle. The Massacre Abyss was now Longao's subordinate. Even now, Longao had no idea why the 5 lords of the Abyss would submit to him out of the blue. What was the reason? Longao's purpose in entering the Massacre Abyss this time was simple. He wanted to borrow the power of the Massacre Abyss to test the Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance. In the end, Longao was very wary of Tong Zun and Long Tian. Once the two of them reached the peak of the martial arts realm, even the heavenly Tao would not dare to fight the two of them together, let alone him. Master, what orders do you have this time? Looking at the young man in front of them, the 5 abyssal lords cursed in their hearts. The 5 of them knew very well that every time Longao entered the massacre abyss, nothing good would come out of it. Last time, they almost lost their lives, but due to the deterrence of the mysterious man in black, the 5 of them did not dare to say anything and continued to pretend. This time, I came to the massacre abyss for only one purpose. From now on, we will start to deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. Go and get ready immediately. F*ck, they cursed in their hearts again. They knew Longao entering the massacre abyss was not a good thing, but the 5 of them did not expect Longao to come here for this. To deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family was completely suicidal. The 5 of them looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. Hong Lingtong coughed and said with a smile, "Master, I know you have a grudge with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. It's a matter of life and death. There are some things that I must say. Go ahead." How could Longao not know what the 5 of them were thinking? But this time, he entered the massacre abyss to use the power of the massacre abyss to deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. It was imperative, and he could not give up. Otherwise, he would not have entered the massacre abyss for no reason. Master, the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family both belong to the 10 forces. Needless to say about their strength and background, I believe you also know the strength of the massacre abyss. Not to mention 1 against 2, even in a 1 against 1 situation, we have no confidence to win. Hong Lingtong told the truth. Although they had already chosen to surrender, they had no choice. If they followed Longao and brought about their own destruction, the 5 of them would not be willing to do so. In their eyes, to deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family was the same as bringing about their own destruction. If Longao was stupid, there was no need for them to be stupid with him. In the end, the 5 of them did not want to agree at all. But still, they had no choice because of the deterrence of the mysterious man in black. The Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family will not cooperate. Moreover, the reason why I chose to deal with them is not to fight them head-on. We can defeat them 1 by 1. Master, we can't do anything about this. The 5 of them had made up their minds. Even if the mysterious man in black came personally, they would do what they had to do. They could not follow Longao to their deaths just because they were afraid of the mysterious man in black. Chapter 1373. Longao did not expect that the 5 of them would reject him without hesitation. With this, it made Longao somewhat confused. What did the 5 of them mean? Under normal circumstances, since the 5 of them had chosen to submit to him, they should listen to him. But what happened? He only wanted to deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, but the 5 of them rejected him without even thinking about it. Was this called submission? He definitely felt uncomfortable in his heart, but Longao did not stop the 5 of them, because he knew very well that the 5 of them had already made up their minds. If he insisted on doing so, then there would only be one result, and that was to shed all pretense of cordiality. Without the help of the Massacre Abyss, how could he deal with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family on his own? He clenched his fists. His eyes were deep. At this moment, no one knew what Longao was thinking. The next day, nobody knew where the news came from. Longao killed Longbo in the ancient battlefield, and it instantly shook the Tianwu continent. The Earth ranking, the most valuable ranking in the Tianwu continent. Yifei, first on the Earth ranking. Longbo, second on the Earth ranking. As everyone knew, Longao's strength was not as good as Yifei and Longbo. The reason why he could be first on the Earth ranking was because he had caused trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance twice, and successfully escaped from the Nirvana realm martial artists. In other words, no one believed that Longao's strength could surpass Yifei and Longbo. The result? Longao successfully killed Longbo. Although many people did not want to believe it, the truth was right in front of them. They had to believe it. Longao had also received the news. It was precisely because of this that his heart was greatly alarmed. This was because Longao did not know who had spread this news. Many people had seen him chasing after Yifei. As for killing Longbo, everyone who saw it was dead. Who was it? After thinking about it, Longao could only think of two people, Tong Zun and Long Tian. Apart from the two of them, Longao could not think of anyone else who would have leaked the news. Since the massacre abyss was unwilling to help, Longao was planning to stall for time and find a suitable opportunity to continue dealing with the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. The current situation. As the news of him killing Longbo spread, Longao was almost certain that he did not need to deal with the Long family. He believed that the Long family would definitely deal with him to avenge Longbo. As expected. As the news of Longao killing Longbo spread throughout the Sky Martial continent, the Long family was furious to the extreme. Long Tian had already gone into seclusion to cultivate. The current dragon sect was still under the control of Long Di Tian. Long family? In the main hall. Patriarch, whether Longao really killed Longbo is still unknown. If we rashly attack Longao and force him to do something, I'm afraid that Longao will go crazy. At this point, Long Heng did not continue, but the meaning of his words was very clear. Longao had previously caused a ruckus in the Martial Artists Alliance, causing the Martial Artists Alliance to be in chaos. In the end, there were countless casualties. Now that he thought about it, it was still vivid in his mind. Long Heng was very worried. If Longao really went crazy, even if the Long family was able to kill Longao, they would still have to pay a price. If that was the case, it would not be good for the family. How could Long Di Tian not know what Long Heng meant? How could he remain calm when his son died? At this moment, Long Di Tian was like a volcano that was about to erupt. If not for his rationality telling him not to be rash, Long Di Tian would have already exploded. In the end, Long Di Tian was also very afraid of Longao. Humph! With a heavy snort, Long Di Tian said with a murderous aura, Longao dared to kill my son. This time, no matter who tries to stop me, I will make him die without a burial ground. Patriarch, should we report this to the old ancestor? No need. Long Di Tian had already made up his mind. If Long Tian was still around, Long Di Tian might still be able to suppress him. But now, as the head of the dragon sect, no one would dare to say otherwise. Furthermore, Longbo had already fallen. Patriarch, what should we do now? Long Heng lowered his head and thought for a moment. Great Elder, immediately gather your men. No matter what, you have to find Longao in the shortest time possible. Then, send people to the 9 provinces continent and destroy Longao's family. Long Heng had already guessed that with Longbo's death, the Patriarch would definitely do this. Long Di Tian only had one son, Longbo. Furthermore, Longbo was the #1 genius of the Dragon Clan, #1 on the Earth leaderboard. Whether it was for public or private reasons, Long Di Tian would not let Longao off easily. He would not even let Longao's family off. Since things had already come to this point, Long Heng did not hesitate and immediately turned to leave. In the entire hall, only Long Di Tian was left. His gloomy face was filled with killing intent. This time, Longbo's death seemed to have dealt a huge blow to Long Di Tian. Otherwise, Long Di Tian would not be so reckless. He did not even care about the consequences of Longao going crazy. Longao, I will let you know the consequences of killing my son. Not only you, but even your family will suffer with you. Following that, sinister laughter spread to every corner of the hall. The 5 Abyss Masters did not agree. Longao did not continue to stay in the Massacre Abyss. He left the Massacre Abyss the next day. As soon as he came out, he heard the news of him killing Longbo. At the peak of the mountain, Longao stood alone at the peak of the mountain, quietly enjoying the cold wind as he looked at the endless void in the distance. Longao was looking in the direction of the Long family. Longao had already received the news that the Long clan had not only issued a kill order to him, they had even issued a kill order to his own family. They had also threatened that no matter who killed him or destroyed his family, they would be heavily rewarded. This battle was unavoidable. Longao knew very well that regardless of whether he killed Longbow or not, as long as the Long family believed him, he would be in trouble. Longao did not have the slightest fear. At worst, he would fight. If he could not win, he would resort to guerrilla warfare. The one who had nothing to lose was not afraid of the one who had shoes to wear. The only thing he was worried about was his family. Long family was one of the 10 forces. Whether it was strength or heritage, they were all there. Once the Long family found the location of the Dragon Valley, wouldn't they be in big trouble? Family was Longao's bottom line. No one could touch it, no matter who it was. Longao was a little solemn because he did not know what to do. He definitely could not fight force with force. After all, he could not use the previous method twice. Even the 9-needle sealing spirit could not be used. If that was the case, things would be very troublesome. Brother Long, you don't have to worry. The location of the Dragon Valley is well hidden. Long family will not be easy to find. Chapter 1374. Bai Ling was very worried about Longao. Bai Ling was very clear that the family was Longao's bottom line. She nodded, then shook her head. Longao said helplessly, Bai Ling, you don't know. The Long family is much stronger than we thought. Once the Long family finds the Dragon Valley, the consequences will be unimaginable. Her heart was filled with worry. She sighed deeply in her heart. Things had already reached this point, and Bai Ling didn't know what to say. No matter what, the Long family's strength was there for all to see. With just Longao's current strength, he really couldn't contend against the Long family. How could she help Brother Long? After thinking about it, Bai Ling couldn't think of a better way to help Longao. Xiling's figure appeared at the same time. He looked at the endless void in front of him and said, Longao, aren't you an array master? Longao nodded. He didn't know what Xiling meant. Could it be that Xiling wanted him to set up an array? Longao had already thought about this point. However, he was very clear that with his current array skills, even if he set up an array outside the Dragon Valley, it would be useless. An array master was in existence above martial artists. In the Tianwu continent, there were 3 types of people who were the most powerful. Other than martial artists, the other 2 were alchemists and array masters. There had never been a person who could cultivate all 3. Only Longao was able to cultivate at an incomparable speed. Even his array skills and alchemy skills were especially powerful. All this time, Longao had been working hard on his cultivation. Furthermore, he had been cultivating the Tao of arrays, but he had neglected the Tao of alchemy. Array masters, in ascending order, were Level 1 Array Master, Level 2 Array Master, Level 3 Array Master, Level 4 Array Master, Level 5 Array Master, Level 6 Array Master, Level 7 Array Master, Level 8 Array Master, Level 9 Array Master, Level 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 Array Master, and Level Array Master. Longao's current array formation skills had already smoothly broken through to the Emperor level. He was only a step away from becoming a God-level array formation master. It was only a step away, but the difference in strength was huge. The difference between an Emperor-level array master and a God-level array master was like the difference between a child and a burly man. If he was a God-level array master, Longao had full confidence that once he set up an array, he would be able to ignore the Long family. He seemed to be able to read Longao's mind. Xiling thought for a moment and said, Longao, I don't think you can stop the Long family with your level of array formation. But I have a way. What is it? Hearing that Xiling had a way, Longao was instantly pleasantly surprised. He couldn't wait to ask. The most troublesome thing right now was his family. If he could solve his family's problem, then everything would be good. Sister, tell me quickly. Not only Longao, but even Bai Ling was a little impatient. Bai Ling, do you remember the sword realm? Sword realm? Hearing her sister's words, Bai Ling's expression changed instantly. She seemed to already know what her sister was about to say. Shaking her head, Bai Ling said firmly, "No, this can't be done." Seeing Bai Ling's expression, Longao was very curious. What was the method that Xiling was talking about? Why was Bai Ling so excited? Bai Ling, let your sister finish first. Bai Ling seemed to want to say something, but she was stopped by Xiling. Longao, you already know who my sister and I are. Back then, we took the risk of devouring our original bodies to strengthen ourselves. Unfortunately, at the last step, the enemy took advantage of us and caused us trouble. Speaking of this, Xiling had an extremely angry, murderous aura, but he suppressed it in the end. Although Xiling didn't finish his words, Longao already understood. It seemed that the two of them were at the last step of their cultivation and were taken advantage of by the enemy, causing them to be seriously injured. Otherwise, the two Jianling wouldn't have been reduced to such a state. Longao still didn't understand. What did this have to do with his family? Jianling, if you want to reach the Supreme Realm, you have to condense your own sword realm. Here's the point. Back then, my sister and I chose to devour our original bodies in order to condense our own sword realm. Unfortunately, we failed at the last step. Otherwise, I believe that we would have achieved the Supreme Sword Dao by now. Longao still didn't say anything. Bai Ling didn't say anything as well. Let's not talk about this. Just the sword realm alone, Longao, although my sister and I were seriously injured, at the last moment, we successfully condensed our sword realm. He was shocked. Longao knew very well that the sword realm that Xiling mentioned just now must be very powerful. Until now, Longao still didn't know how powerful Xiling and Bai Ling's original bodies were. As if he could guess what Longao was thinking, Xiling didn't say anything. However, Bai Ling said, "Brother Long, the sword realm that we condensed is something that even the power of origin can't resist." F***ck. Just as expected. Longao finally understood why Xiling was so confident in the sword realm. If that was really the case and he set up the sword realm around the Dragon Valley, even the Heavenly Tao wouldn't be able to enter the Dragon Valley, let alone the Long family. Longao, although my sister and I have condensed our sword realm, we are seriously injured and can't set it up anymore. Even if we do, the Heavenly Tao can break it and enter the Dragon Valley. However, Long Tian and the others don't have the strength to enter. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was extremely depressed. If they couldn't set up the sword realm, wouldn't that mean that they didn't say anything? Could it be that Xiling was playing with him? It shouldn't be. Longao knew Xiling's character very well. Xiling wouldn't tease him for no reason. Could it be that he could set up the sword realm? Xiling, are you able to set up the sword realm or are you unable to? At this point, Longao really wanted to know what Xiling meant. It was too anxious. If Xiling didn't say anything, Longao wouldn't be so anxious. Xiling smiled. This smile made Longao even more anxious. However, Longao had a plan in his heart. Because Xiling smiled, it meant that Xiling definitely had a plan. Just as expected. Longao, although my sister and I can't set up the sword realm now, we can use some kind of power and environment to set up the sword realm. As I said just now, even if we can't stop the Heavenly Tao from entering the sword realm, others, including Long Tian and the others, can't enter the sword realm without permission. That's enough. Longao was afraid of the Long family and not the Heavenly Tao. This was because he knew that as long as he didn't provoke the Heavenly Tao would never come to deal with him unless it had nothing better to do. Chapter 1375. To be able to resist the Long family was enough. Xiling, what should we do? My sister and I need to prepare. It will take about a month. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Xiling continued. Longao, you have to remember that even if my sister and I can set up the Sword Realm, it can only last for 3 years. After 3 years, the Sword Realm will disappear. 3 years? 3 years wasn't a long time, but it wasn't a short time either. 3 years is more than enough. Longao was very confident in himself. If he could not even break through to the Nirvana realm in 3 years, then there was no point in continuing to fight with the Long family. 3 years, perhaps to other martial artists, was a very short period of time. To break through to the Nirvana realm from the Heavenly God realm, not to mention 3 years, even 30 years, or even 100 years might not be enough. However, Longao was very confident. From the time he was a trash in the Scarlet Fire Town until now, it had been less than 3 years. He had also advanced from the postnatal realm to the Heavenly God realm. If he had not experienced it himself, he would not have believed it even if he was beaten to death. Under such circumstances, it was a very good thing for Longao that the Dragon Valley could be peaceful for 3 years. Next, Longao rushed to the Dragon Valley as fast as he could because he did not know when the Long family would find the location of the Dragon Valley. If the Long family was faster than him, the family would be in big trouble. Dragon Valley. Longao, who had just returned to the Dragon Valley, heard that Yuyin had left the Dragon Valley and was going to the Tianwu continent to look for him. Longao's expression changed drastically, and his face was filled with worry. At the back of the Dragon Valley, in an elegant pavilion. Grandfather, I am very worried about Yuyin's departure this time. I will personally go to the Tianwu continent later. Yuyin's identity was different now. After all, he had forcefully brought Yuyin back. In addition to the previous incident, would the Martial Artists Alliance still treat Yuyin the same way as before? Wang Yidao and Long Haoshe were very clear about the relationship between the two. Because of this, the two of them didn't try to persuade him any further. The two of them were very clear about Longao's character. Once he had decided on something, he would not change his mind. Yuyin could risk going to the Martial Heaven continent for Longao. On the other hand, Longao would also risk going to the Martial Heaven continent for Yuyin. Aoer, why did you come back this time? Wang Yidao and Long Haoshe were not fools. They knew very well that if there was nothing wrong, Aoer would not return for no reason. He nodded. Longao did not hide anything in the slightest. He recounted the matter this time in full detail. After hearing this, the two men's faces turned ugly. Regardless of whether it was the Martial Artists Alliance or the Long family, they were both powerful and had a solid foundation. Could the strength of a sect alone contend against a Long family? The two of them were very serious, but they were not very surprised. They already knew about the grudge between Aoer and the Martial Artists Alliance, as well as the Long family. Aoer, what are you going to do? If the Long family launched a large-scale attack, how many people in the Dragon Valley would be able to escape? Longao didn't hide anything from his two grandfathers. I'm going to set up a sword realm around the Dragon Valley. Unless the Heavenly Tao descends, no one will be able to enter the Dragon Valley. Even if Long Tian descends personally, he won't be able to enter. Hearing this, the two of them were overjoyed. Sword realm? What's a sword realm? The two of them didn't ask much as they trusted Longao very much. From the beginning to the end, Aoer had grown too quickly. If it weren't for Aoer, the Long family would still be a small family in Scarlet Fire Town. They wouldn't be able to dominate the Jiuzhou continent. Longao didn't say much. The Sword Realm was a secret between Xiling and Bai Ling. Without their permission, Longao wouldn't tell anyone about it, including his two grandfathers. Grandpa, once the Sword Realm is set up, no one is allowed to leave the Dragon Valley unless there's something important. No problem, we'll take care of this. Wang Yidao and Long Haoshe were well aware of the seriousness of the matter. Once the Dragon Valley was exposed, who knew what would happen? It was better to be safe than sorry. In the following time, Longao led Xiling and Bai Ling to prepare for the Sword Realm. On the other side, Wan Yidao and Long Haoshi gave orders at the same time that no one in the Dragon Sect was allowed to leave the Dragon Valley without their permission. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. Although the two of them didn't say what was going on, everyone in the Dragon Valley knew what was going on. It seemed that Longao's enemies were coming again. No one panicked and no one left because everyone in the Dragon Sect trusted Longao. Everyone treated Longao like a god. Outside the Dragon Valley, Xiling, it's all up to you. Xiling nodded. He knew that the family was Longao's bottom line. So even if it was difficult to use the Sword Realm, he was prepared to give it a try. Back then, in order to successfully condense the Sword Realm, the two sword spirits did not hesitate to risk their lives to devour the original body. After successfully devouring the original body, the two successfully condensed the Sword Realm. They were only one step away from achieving the Supreme Sword Dao. Unfortunately, at the last step, the two of them had been ambushed by their enemies. In the end, they had been heavily injured and had almost died. Even now, the two of them hadn't fully recovered. Even the Sword Realm couldn't be used. Otherwise, other than the God Diviner, who else on the martial heaven continent could be their match? The Sword Realm was a supreme existence that surpassed the core energy. Even the heavenly Daos weren't their match. Bai Ling and Xiling worked together, hoping that they could successfully create the Sword Realm. Longao stood to the side, waiting in anticipation. He wanted to help, but he was powerless to do so. The wind was blowing in the martial heaven continent. A great battle was about to erupt. As the news of Longao killing Longbo spread, the Long family chased after him everywhere. Not only that, but the Long family even wanted to deal with the Dragon Sect. Countless people flocked over, wanting to find the whereabouts of Longao and the Dragon Sect. In any case, they didn't need to do anything themselves. As long as they found them, they would be heavily rewarded by the Long family. The Long family had already guessed that Longao had most likely moved the Dragon Sect to the 9 Provinces continent. After all, the Martial Heaven continent was the Long family's territory, while the 9 Provinces continent was the Dragon Sect's territory. However, the Long family didn't have the slightest fear. They sent a large number of disciples into the 9 Provinces continent, preparing to conduct a thorough search. No matter what happened, they had to find the Dragon Sect. Long Ditian was clearly enraged this time. Not only were there ordinary disciples, there were even over 1,000 Divine Tao warriors and Supreme Divine Tao warriors. What kind of concept was this? Over 1,000 Divine Tao warriors and Supreme Divine Tao warriors had entered the 9 Provinces continent. Even if they destroyed the 9 Provinces continent, it would be a matter of minutes. However, the Long family didn't do so. They only had one enemy, and that was the Longao. If they killed the innocent, it would definitely incur the wrath of the people of the continent. To the Long family, this wasn't the slightest bit of benefit. He believed that the Long family wouldn't do such a brainless thing. Dragon Valley. Longao had already received news that the Long family had entered the 9 Provinces continent en masse. Perhaps because he didn't want to fight with the Long family, the Martial Artists Alliance's forces had all withdrawn from the 9 Provinces continent, including the other sections. In other words, the current overlord of the 9 Provinces continent was the Long family. There was also a hidden overlord, which was the previous overlord. That was the Dragon Sect that had forcefully risen in just a few short years. Speaking of which, it was very happy. The Dragon Sect originally belonged to the Long family. That was because the Dragon Sect's predecessor was the Long family, and it was only a 6th-rank Long family. In the eyes of the Long family, it wasn't even worth mentioning. Let alone a 6th-rank Long family, even a 3rd-rank Long family, or even a 2nd-rank Long family, the Long family wouldn't even put them in their eyes. No one would have thought that a small 6th-grade Long family would develop to become the overlord of the Jiuzhou continent in just a few short years. The Long family and the Dragon sect were originally one family, but now they were going to meet on the battlefield. It was really a very funny thing. Everyone, including the other sects of the Martial Heaven continent, was waiting to see the Longao and the Long family clash. Whether it was the Longao's death or the Long family's heavy losses, everyone was looking forward to it. Under normal circumstances, with the Dragon sect's power, how could it contend against the Long family? However, the Longao's several counterattacks made many people think highly of the Longao. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people who thought highly of the Longao. The Long family has sent a large number of experts to the 9 provinces continent. Should we close our doors and not do anything, or should we fight the Long family? The person with the highest authority in the Dragon sect wasn't Long Haosher, Wang Yidao, or Long Yi. It was Longao. No one had any objections to that. Longao wasn't the slightest bit surprised that the Long family had come to the 9 provinces continent. He had already guessed that it would be strange if the Long family didn't come. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Grandfather, leave this matter to me. No matter what happens, don't leave the Dragon Valley. Longao was very clear that if he was alone, he wouldn't have any misgivings about running away. However, if someone from the Dragon Valley was captured, it would be troublesome. For example, if Long Tian hadn't suddenly appeared, he wouldn't have been able to leave the Long family. Be careful, Aor. Longao nodded. He wasn't the slightest bit worried about the Divine Path experts and Supreme Divine Path experts the Long family had sent. With his strength, his reincarnation avatar, and the Nirvana Divine Bow, killing Divine Path experts would be a matter of minutes. Even Supreme Divine Path experts, as long as they weren't God Emperors, he could kill them in an instant. God Emperors. How many God Emperors did the Long family have? Longao sneered. Since the Long family wanted to play, he would play with the Long family, and see who would have the last laugh. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.